Okay, cool. Bada binga dinga dung dunga dung 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 dunga ding. That's how I start every show now.
Damn, you just made your own trope.
Yeah. My own leitmotif.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you for the standing ovation while you were sitting down.
Well, if I put my feet up, it would be like a floating one. Ovation, what'd you say?
Yeah, standing ovation. A floating ovation. I like that. That's a new thing,
ovation.
Right? Oh, that is amazing.
Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Span. This season, we are covering the films of 2007. I am your host, Louis Hilligus IV, and with me today is the world record holder for the world's funniest man in 2007, and my good old pal.
Yep.
He made me say that.
Yeah. Also,
Averick Faeth.
I told you not to mention the world record thing because, people are not going to believe me, but it's true. Even though I was 7. But still.
All right, man. This is a good start, just gaslighting me about this whole situation.
Yeah. Well, it was a setup.
I definitely didn't make that up, man.
Hey,
there's no, yeah.
Classic comedy, hook and switch, right?
Yeah, no but.
Well,
it's a good motto to have.
So, you said 2007, right? And I remember before you even made this podcast, you were thinking, which year out of all the years?
Yeah.
And I think 2007, you just straight up nailed it. Because it's just a wild ride. If anyone has the chance, just Google 2007 movies and just take a peek.
Yeah, definitely a lot of high highs and low lows is how I would describe it. What I liked about it, too, is it just felt like a lot of people around our age would still be aware of enough of these movies. Because, I was in like 6th grade when this came out. Like where were you in 2007?
Yeah, I guess so. So wait, you...
Because I'm 26 right now.
Right. I'll be 24, so I was 2 years younger than you.
Yeah, well, I'll be 27 in March, but...
So I probably saw it on the cusp.
You may have been you were definitely in elementary school, though.
Right.
4th-ish grade, maybe.
Right. I wonder when I actually saw it. The first time I probably saw it was, 6th grade, probably 7th. I doubt I was that young watching it, but no, I probably peaked it.
Well, this is definitely one of those films that kept playing like through the DVD era, right? Like everyone would have owned this, spread it around, and shown it to their friends. And also, like, I feel like we were so deep into this style of like comedies, right? It's like it's the fraternity brother like stuff in some ways, the juvenile like humor. Right. Like this is a little more refined than some of those other ones, but it's still in that tradition. And I think so many people had memories of even growing up with those films that by the time their kids were teenagers, they're kind of like, I don't really care if my teenage son wants to watch like a movie with like, raunchy jokes in it. Cause he's like, I know I was thinking about that stuff at that age and it like didn't mess me up to see this type of movie or something. Right.
Nah, just kidding.
Well,
just kidding.
No, but like, sure. They like, maybe they talk about sex and like maybe in 6th grade, that may have been like the first time you were hearing about like some of the contexts, but even the way this film deals with consent is really interesting to look at. Because I'm definitely jumping ahead, but essentially at the end of the movie, there's the whole arc is that these guys that Seth, played by Jonah Hill, thinks that Emma Stone's character will hook up with him if they're both drunk.
Oh,
essentially,
that's right.
like if we both get really fucked up at the party,
is to get the liquor.
Right. If we both get fucked up at this party, then we will hook up, obviously, but like she doesn't even drink. He's misunderstanding the situation entirely. And putting his insecurities on the situation, essentially. That's the arc he has to go through here. So like, even if it does have a juvenile take on like sex, and they have a lot of like jokes that are like pretty, that could push what would be appropriate for like a 6th grader.
That's true.
At the end of the day, it is teaching them that like the situation is more complex than just like, you get the objective, and then you get the girl as the reward at the end of the story.
Sure.
You know?
Which is harmless enough. And it's also a big movie about friendship and like
absolutely
they all bond closer, but also like I think some of them, Michael Cera and Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill's character, they talk about them like being apart more. I don't know. I can't.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
Well, yeah. So I mean, essentially, the two of them are about to go off to college.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So it's about them splitting up here.
Oh, sure.
Right, and kind of coming. They're dealing with their breakup as friends because they're just going to different schools.
That's right.
And they kind of get together with the girls at the end, and it's symbolic of,
right.
We'll still be in touch, but there's going to be other things in our lives and new commitments. So Superbad is directed by Greg Mottola.
Greg Mottola.
Yep. So he his first film is called Day Trippers. Came out in '96. I think it was like a Sundance hit. I haven't seen it yet. But that it's like one of those indie films that just like generates buzz for someone early on.
Sure.
He has like some TV work after this. He does Arrested Development, which is worth pointing out because Michael Cera.
The same guy. Oh, I see.
He directs a few episodes of the TV show Arrested Development. He's not in charge of the whole thing.
I see,
by any means. But I think that's where he probably met Michael Cera. He's got a couple other films like Paul, which is the
alien one, right?
Alien movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
You never seen it?
No. I know that it's more of a cult film, right?
It's I guess you just like if you see it, you're not gonna be like, oh my god, Paul was really good, but it also scratches that itch of like aliens for a lot of people. Which is like kind of was my itch, but this alien's cool and he smokes weed and if he holds his breath, he turns invisible, So it's goofy, it's
very 2000s Comedy Central,
very
for sure.
much so, which is fine.
Yeah,
it's not trying to be something it's not, and like most of these movies, I'm saying they're not trying to be something they're not, and they're not taking themselves too seriously.
Right.
That was the charm of most of these movies for comedy, which is like a happy medium, like it's fun to watch. But I feel like Superbad is a little different.
Definitely. I will. Superbad has lasted. I would say better than any of the other comedies of this area. Mm-hmm. I think we covered Walk Hard. That's one that's definitely held up pretty well. And so funnily enough, Blades of Glory I think held up pretty well too. When you would think that it would fall more to the waysides the way that Wild Hogs did.
Gosh, that's probably been the first time those movies have been like talked about like,
in the same breath. Like, I mean, yeah, but they came out like within the same year, so somebody could have watched those two movies at Blockbuster, a week apart, like if they had rented those.
Can you imagine going to the movie theater? You go to see one of the films and they're like, oh yeah, it's sold out, but you can pick another movie and like, well, what about Wild Hogs? John Travolta is sitting there. Then they watch it instead. Classic,
exactly. But I do think it's because that Greg Mottola, he tends to have a bit more style in his comedies than like the standard fare around this area. Last week I was talking about Juno and Knocked Up, and some of my like failings with Judd Apatow that he's not a very visually interesting director.
Oh, that's an interesting.
But Greg Mottola is using like really extensive blocking throughout this film. There's early on, Seth and Evan are just basically so Seth, which is played by Jonah Hill, right, and Evan, who's played by Michael Cera, they are they're stand-ins for the writers of this film, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Two of them are a directing and producing duo, but they also wrote the script. It's kind of their first big project,
right?
But the two leads, Seth and Evan, are just in a gas station, and they're just kind of setting up a lot of the early school's about to be done. We didn't get into the same college, all this type of stuff. And they're in a gas station and they move around and they hit it a couple different points and they frame it pretty well and interestingly.
Very cool.
When they could have just, set up the camera in front of the hot dog stand.
Sure.
And then just said, keep talking while the hot dogs roll. But like the actual composition, keeps it fresh and keeps it moving, which is really nice. And, even at the very beginning of the film, when Seth comes and picks up Evan in his car, like they're talking on the phone to each other. And then, and then Evan walks out the front door and he's still talking on the phone to Seth. And their conversation just continues as he walks up to the car, gets in, he just hangs up the phone, but without a beat, they don't drop a single line.
Oh, interesting.
And it's just like
the audio seems seamless too.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's a clear cut there, but it's pretty like fun in just a way that like it's fun and inventive with like the technology that we have right now, without really being that crazy.
Yeah.
And Greg Mottola also did Adventureland. If you've seen that,
sounds very familiar.
It's got Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig. Some others. It's a fair out in like New Jersey, actually called like Adventureland. And they went and filmed there, like at the actual park, and it's a summer romp. But like it's
Stewart, right?
Kristen Stewart. Did I say? I probably said something else. But
no, I was like, it's the girl from Twilight and fucking Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah,
but
wow,
but
what a throwback.
That's got a lot of style in it too. Even though like that's his follow up to Superbad.
Very cool.
And then also Confess Fletch, which just came out this last year.
Oh shit.
It's the next Fletch movie. There's two Chevy Chase Fletch movies from the 80s, but this is kind of like a revamp with John Hamm playing the lead. And it had a lot more style than I was expecting for a comedy of that caliber. I mean, Fletch is like a detective, so in some ways it almost felt like a little James Bond or spy-ish.
Oh sure.
Just at a couple moments.
It's kind of a different little bit of a style for him.
But the thing is, I think he's still making comedies and still busting them out, and not a lot of people are able to make comedies like in this day and age, let alone comedies that are successful.
That's what I was gonna say when I was referencing the comedy period for the time when they weren't taking themselves seriously. And it's just hard because I feel like filmmakers now are forced in a way of like, I need to do X, Y, and Z rather than I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. And it's just funny to us. Like a lot of the movies that you watch with Walk Hard and Blades of Glory, they have like such a good team where they just love making movies and you can just feel that. Well, and I feel like this one is closer to that than Wild Hogs. If you put it on a scale.
You're totally right too, because it's crazy the amount of overlap there is with like the actual group of comedians and players that they have. Obviously, Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, these are like their first film credits. Right. Michael Cera has an extensive TV career before this, actually, just because he was like a child actor.
It was Jonah Hill the big one, right?
Well, this was Jonah Hill's first film, but it was Michael Cera's first kind of feature, wide release type deal too. He had just been working before that, rather. But Seth Rogen, he had been working for a long time. Yeah. And popped up in like some films, but like this was a really big breakout for him. Bill Hader as well. He was on SNL, and like had gotten big from that, but this was like the start of his film career. And like this and Hot Rod and Knocked Up are all in the same year, and he's in all three of those in bit parts, and he plays totally different characters in
all
each
supporting roles as well.
All supporting roles, yeah. I mean,
he's kind of a supporting role star though too. Like every time the camera's on him though, he nails it.
Incredible. I mean, I think he understands. Like it's probably why he is such a good writer and director as well, is that he understands the whole piece, right? And he's like, okay, this is the part I'm playing within the piece, and like he understands where to bring comedic relief and at what time to make it have the most impact. He's killer in this too. But
him and Seth Rogen as cops is just
killer.
It's great. And they have a great little dynamic duo, and it's like even the cops are like normal ass dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I do love it though, because it's like, because of how irresponsible they are, like they don't really let up on the game
Right.
until the end of the film, because they essentially these I'll catch us up plot wise.
Yeah,
but
yeah, just keep rolling
the
with
cops are introduced to us at the liquor store, and essentially, Jules is throwing a party, Emma Stone's character.
Yes.
And she asks Seth to go and get them liquor for the party.
He goes, "Oh yeah, we could do that."
So they go to their friend Christopher Mintz, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse. He is called Fogel is his real name.
Yes, yes.
But he has just gotten a new fake ID with just one name and one name only on it.
First and last.
First and last, or no first name, just a last name.
Yeah.
But
or just a middle name.
Or
maybe.
just a middle name. Yeah.
Yeah.
An alibi. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it says McLovin. Because I mean, it's just it's become its own incredible like meme and joke. Just like
a meme
reference
before
point.
memes were,
Definitely.
there was like GIFs and shit.
Yeah. Just like such a funny name too.
Yeah.
Like such a clever. It truly feels original. Like
I have
this
a great story for
a fake ID
for the McLovin ID. So my buddy, his name's Taylor. Shout out Taylor. Haven't seen him in years. He looks nothing like McLovin. He like is kind of darker complexion, but it's because he's Eastern Canadian. It's a very weird, like he's just like has a natural like darker tan, blue eyes, short hair. He's kind of bigger build. Looks nothing like McLovin, right? Okay, so he was probably 17, 18, maybe even younger, maybe a hair older, but he went to go buy like blunt wraps or alcohol or something with it. And it fucking worked.
Of course.
The McLovin ID worked. It's from Hawaii. It says McLovin. And it's like literally polar opposites.
But that's the thing about it is like, of course it worked. Because like most people checking IDs, especially in a state like California where this takes place in, like don't give a fuck, right?
And, yep, sure.
And like, and that's the thing. When Fogel goes to the liquor store to buy liquor, he goes in, he drops like a pack of 6-packs and they kind of go all over the place. And the guy's just like, is like, did you do this? And he's like, nope. And he's like, you should clean this up too. But like someone might get hurt and he's just like, I fucking hate my life. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's not me, but it's quite the mess.
He has no problem with that. And then he just grabs a bunch of liquor, walks up to the cashier, and like she's not asking for his ID until he's just like, until he messes up the game, right? Because he's like, oh, I heard they just put more hops in that beer. and she's just like, okay, come on, give me the ID.
Yeah.
But honestly, like most people, for their own sake, just need to show on camera that they checked it, right?
Yeah,
like,
people slide that in.
It's a sales place at the end of the day, like, and even the cops, like. The whole game with the cops is that they clearly know this is a fake ID because he hands them the fake ID. The liquor store gets robbed. He gets punched in the face.
Dude, out of nowhere.
But like the cops clearly know it's a fake ID.
Yes.
And the whole thing is that, you just assume they're bad cops and that they're like all about fucking around and maybe they don't realize that it's a fake ID, but by the end it's revealed that like they knew, but they also were like, hey, we saw ourselves in you. We just wanted to have a fun night, right? Like it at least excuses it in a way that you could believe that these guys were real cops, but you're like, there's no way they're doing this every fucking night, right? Like,
and Fogel's the character that is trying to get you painted as like, someone you shouldn't necessarily like, but you have no choice of loving. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's just, I think we've all known a kid like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he's just like, exactly. There's no real reason to hate him, but you kind of hate him.
Yeah. But you're like, well, kind of like him.
But you kind of love him
Jonah
at the same time.
Jonah Hill's like, especially he's like, fuck off, Fogel. You ruined it. And he starts yelling at him and shit. You're like, oh, yeah. That's That's Fogel for you. All right, so
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really great banter in the middle of all of this. The reason why like Seth and Evan like don't interfere with like the robber at the liquor store is that a girl who previously graduated is like out jogging, and they're just like it's the give me one sec. I think it's on the next page. Yep. Okay. I'll do a clean take here.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but the reason why Seth and Evan aren't able to stop the liquor store robbery is because they see a girl who's graduated a year before, like out jogging. They start talking about her breast reduction. And he's like, "Oh, what a shame!" And then like Michael Cera's character's like, "No, man, it makes him like more firm and like upright." And then like Jonah Hill's just he starts jogging, and he's like, "I gotta catch a glimpse of these warlocks."
Oh yeah,
which is just like
it's such a great term
it's another one of those lines I feel like I would hear people quote all the time, like
Right.
after this movie came out. Right. It's just like it's infinitely pullable.
And it's interesting that Jonah Hill's character is named Seth because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Seth Rogen originally wrote the role for Seth as him, but he outgrew the role, right?
Yeah, well, so what's interesting about this year is so Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill are both in Superbad and Knocked Up.
Oh, interesting. Wait, really?
Yeah. No, this is wild. So in Knocked Up, all the characters are just named after the people who play them.
Oh, sure.
Except for like Seth, like who's the main character. He actually has a different name, but all of his comedian friends are just like, you know, Jonah Hill is Jonah. Okay. Jason, Jason is Jason, right? Martin stars Martin. Yeah, and then in this movie they do the same thing of just like just throw the first name out. But
straight up,
you're right. Seth Rogen was 25 when Knocked Up came out.
I see.
And apparently I think he was just too tall and looked too kind of like grown next to like Michael Cera and especially like Christopher Mintz. Like that dude is tiny.
Yeah.
And like to be fair, yeah, Jonah Hill just like is a bit shorter and just like, you know, in that age range, like people play high school kids until they're like 28.
Yeah.
It happens all the time in the industry. If you have the right face or features for it, like you could definitely get away with it. And then there's also like you definitely see 30-year-old guys in like Riverdale with their shirt off playing on the football team. And you're like, that's just no high schooler looks like that, man. But
that's 30 years.
It happens, you know.
It does.
It's the movie magic of it all.
True. Which is interesting that in this one, Seth Rogen's like, you know what? I want to see Jonah as this. And this is Jonah's first really like role assuming the spotlight and
exactly. Seth Rogen also executive produced this, so you're like it's cool that he had this script for so long. He wrote this like when he was in high school, and essentially had been holding on to it that long. Wow. For him to be like willing to step down,
it's his baby.
It's great, and also it makes me wonder like they had to have some type of other plot line with these cops already established.
Sure.
But like, I wonder if they expanded the role of it all a bit.
I believe
just to give himself a bigger role in the film, like if he was stepping down, because the cops are so good too. And usually that's the type of plot line that could be worse if it wasn't executed as well.
Which I don't think I've seen him before. Well, besides I guess Knocked Up, right? Because they were in 3 movies together. But it's just great. I think his comment from Seth Rogen is that originally the cops were going to be just like as a little side piece, but I think he did expand on it a little more.
That makes a lot of sense then.
I would.
Yeah, and they don't interact in Knocked Up. Bill Hader's just a one-scener guy.
That's what I thought.
It's not even like there's no other time the two of them have been put next to each other as like a comedic duo.
Nice.
Although like they could probably pull off Timon and Pumbaa because
who's that? Timon and Pumbaa?
From The Lion King.
Oh,
because Seth Rogen voiced Pumbaa in the live action version, and they had Billy Eichner do Timon, which he did great too. I was just thinking I could see the two of them like embodying that kind of comedic relief together too, or
in a different situation for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just they're two good talents.
I think they're both though, like because they're both producers, directors, writers, and actors in their own right. Like they're too big to probably work together again. Like unless there's a reason for them to, say we got to work on this project. Like not gonna happen
for sure.
So so Seth and Evan basically they return to the liquor store and they see the cops have arrived and they just assume McLovin is getting arrested because why else would the cops be like bringing him into the back of his car and all that. And Seth's like, we gotta get money or like liquor fast. They just lost all of their money because they gave it to Full Goal to buy the liquor. And a guy runs over Seth. The guy is played by Joe Lo Truglio. I'm totally he's got a tough name. But he's famous for being on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if you've seen that sitcom.
Sure. Yes, with Terry Crews, right?
Of course, and Andy Samberg.
Nice.
I think having an actor that is this gifted comedically is part of what helps build that huge, ensemble of great actors, and comedians. Because most movies, like when they get down to the B and C tier roles, don't have actors that are this good,
Especially side pieces, like they could go with the story without this intervention of the character.
Right.
Like the branch it goes off of with this character is so, and he does good.
Well, and that's the
and as a kid,
that's the genre of this film.
Sure.
Like, there's been more copycats of Superbad than like anything. It kind of did invent its own little genre here, but like also there have been other films like this. It's like a one crazy night film, right? Like whatever the situation is, like After Hours by Martin Scorsese, or like Uncut Gems almost feels like a one crazy night film because like it takes place over like 2 days. But like it's just like stuff just keeps happening and like people are getting diverted and pulled apart, in other directions. But yeah, it's the tangents and it's the crazy sidetracks that make it all that much more fun,
Especially when you have a good supporting cast.
Yeah.
Just like you said.
Yeah, and I mean exactly. They go to this school, or they don't go to the school. They they go to this party,
right?
And it's so funny because Joe's character is immediately thrown out, like, and beat up because he is not supposed to be there. But he's telling him the whole time, like, oh, you can come in and there's totally gonna be tons of booze for you guys and it's gonna be great. And then the boys kind of have a fight there about like how far they're willing to go to steal. Evan doesn't want to do it, so he leaves the party, and then Seth kind of doubles down. And
does he leave? I thought he gets fucked up there. Right?
He leaves for a moment.
Sure. Sorry.
No, you're good. So Evan leaves the party for a bit, talks on the phone to his date.
Oh, sure.
And then Seth is inside, and he dances with a girl who like stains his like pants with period blood.
I love the scene where she's like, "Hey." And
That's
hey. Yeah. I'm pretty sure she goes, "You're hot."
Exactly. Dude, it's like
it's so
the whole time he's just like, what? Like he can't believe it. And the reason why he stops his quest for liquor, like this is the only time you ever see him like pause. He is like dead set on like getting this, whatever it takes. But the reason why he pauses here is I think he's like, this could be my girlfriend. like what if I just solve my problems and then I don't have to go to like grad night? Like I think he's sitting there thinking it the whole time.
Well, for sure, because previously when they just hop into that guy's car as a stranger, I don't know about you, but when I was young, I was doing some fucked up shit. And like, there's a chance we're like, oh, dude, this solves all of our problems. And then we go, and then you're just somewhere doing something. And like, his character like is somewhere doing something.
You told me you've been to a couple second locations.
Oh, yes.
That you shouldn't have been at.
Oh, dude, for sure. Whew. For sure. I've Oh yeah, I got some really interesting stories of just like waking up during a party. You know,
Oh my God.
you know, like you fall asleep somewhere and you wake up during a party. And you're like,
Have I been here the whole time?
yeah.
Jesus.
But I mean, Jonah Hill's character. I mean, if that's what happened to a young pubescent man, you know, you're a little twisted, you're a little horny up. You know, you're getting grinded on. How strong? How big of a man are you?
Fair enough, man.
You know?
He knows he's like out of his league, so he's
Right.
just like, I'm holding on to the bat as much as as much as I can.
Which then it's so weird though. Like, if really thinking about it, like this girl is on her period and she like specifically just like rubbing around, and then she's just like, all right, thanks, and then just
leaves, yeah.
just leaves.
No, and then exactly. Mark, who's played by Kevin Corrigan.
Yes.
He comes in and he's the boyfriend. He's the host of the party. He's previously beaten up Joe's character, and it's revealed that this is his girlfriend, and he's gonna beat up the guy who's been dancing with her. But in the meantime, Michael Cera comes back into the party to use the phone. Because the reception on his cell phone is bad. He's
just like cutting out and just calling her like a bunch of shit.
Badass shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he calls her on the landline, and then when he's in that room, like 5 or 6 guys come in and they bust out a bunch of cocaine.
Yeah.
And he's just like, fuck, like what do I do here? The guys, reveal that a fight's about to happen. Like the dudes are just like, I've been praying for a fight. Like one of the guys is like, I woke up today, like just hoping I could get into a fight. Like,
please.
It's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And they're hella coked up.
Yeah.
Obviously. And then literally the door busts through. Like the fight comes in, or the door busts open, and it's the dude from the liquor store that was cleaning up the mess from before.
Oh,
because
really?
he's at this party unexplainably, which is just a fun detail. He's like, fight, and then they all run outside, and literally like all the dudes on coke just start like wailing on like anyone at the party or like anyone that's like fucking around. It's just like all madness.
I think one of my favorite scenes is right before that happens when Evan's in the room, and they start doing like, wait, who's that guy?
Dude, I forgot. That's right. The door doesn't bust down right away.
And then they start talking about him like, oh, that's so-and-so's brother, his little brother, the musician, the singer.
Yes.
And he goes, he goes, dude, you have to sing for us, bro. You have to sing for us. I like coked out. He gets all excited. He goes, yeah. That guy,
but he's like, you can tell he's like singing with like half of his voice. Yeah. But like all the dudes are like so coked up that they're like, yes. and like the main dude just goes, but that like or some shit, and you're just it's killer.
It's such a good, and then to break the tension as he's like kind of getting into it and like singing good. The fucking door just breaks down.
Exactly. And then Seth, and that's right. Seth tries to wash off the stain from his pants, goes down. There's a line for the bathroom, so he goes into the basement. In the basement, he finds like a lot of beer, and so he takes some laundry detergent, and empties it out, and then puts beer into it. Which is like it's just like it's so sus, but you know it's bad, like because he drinks it later in the party and it comes out blue.
Yes, exactly.
like
everyone's like drinking.
He didn't rinse that thing out at all.
Classic, huh?
But luckily, that's he brought other liquors, not just laundry detergent shit. But this is all he can get. So he walks out with the laundry detergent.
Mission successful, and he has like beers in his pockets and shit. Right?
Exactly. And Mark's just like, what are you doing? Like dancing with my chick. And then he's like, also, why are you holding this laundry detergent? And he's like, well, your chick stained my pants. And they kind of can't deny it. The fight happens. All the cokeheads join. Seth and Evan get out, right? But like just by the skin of their teeth. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the cops are just kind of going on a fucking rampage, right? They're letting like Fogel fire their gun.
Oh,
they're just like, they're out doing like donut holes and shit. Like just fucking.
I love the genuine bonding the cops do with Fogel.
No, truly,
Like
because you can tell they're hella fucked up, and like, yeah. So they all like they respond to a call at a bar, right? And so they're they go in and like they're like, all right, Fogel, just like sit in the corner here. And so he stays by the entrance, and then they go and deal with like a really drunk guy, and the drunk guy tries to run away from him and like somehow like pushes Seth Rogen, and the other cop over, and like is about to leave, and Fogel's somehow able to stop this guy from running out of the bar.
Like he didn't actually do something.
He was just like trying to get out of the way, but like dodging left, right, like the wrong, but he's seen as a hero, and so they're like, yeah, let's buy you a beer. And so they just like start drinking at the bar. And it's killer because he's underage, and like everyone else probably knows he's underage too. But it's like there's two cops in front of you saying this guy is of age. So it's like, what are you gonna do but serve him?
Straight up.
Yeah.
Sure. It's too good.
They should have had a scene. It probably would have broke the reality too much, but like of him pulling out his ID.
Sure.
To show that bartender in front of those cops.
I would, yeah.
Like
that would just
it'd be pretty damn funny.
Punch,
To get like an insert shot of like the cops like almost breaking up, like laughing.
Yeah.
Being like, is this dumbass gonna take it?
But it would kind of rob you of the end of the
exactly. Well, and that's the beauty of it, is that like you don't know, and then the second time through is that much more fun because you do.
Right. So
Seth
and Evan run from the party.
They run from the party, but they also like they this is like where they have their big fight, like too. Like before at the party, Evan was trying to actually leave, and Seth's still pissed about it, but Evan rightly identifies. He's like, look, I'm just gonna go to the party without alcohol and tell her how I feel, and I'm gonna hope she feels the same way. And we don't need to be drunk to hook up. Like, he literally says the advice that Seth like could take and needs to hear at this moment. And that's the moment that Seth decides to double down instead. Which is it just says a lot about his character, and I just love that they don't let him get the reward, in the way that he thought he would get it, right? And then like but he does come to the relationship on the right terms eventually. And, he needs to grow here, right? Because he's being a dick to Evan too. Right. Because Evan's going to a better college that he can't get into. So he resents him for it,
Exactly. It all comes like, it's cool because, this is a comedy. But has structure, has a good set of bones.
Well, I mean, and exactly. It doesn't need to be super deep. You just need to deal with like whatever the scenario is with some reality, right? Because like, I think a lot of people have been in a situation like this, like they either were dating someone when they left high school, or they had like a best friend or two, and like your social circles change. I mean, that's just a part of life.
But for better or for worse.
Yeah. Some people, they had the same social group until they hit high school. So like sometimes it's harder for other people. Sometimes people move or change schools that, change their social circles before that.
Yeah. So
it's not as hard, but I mean, I think it's hard no matter what. Like, anytime it happens, like moving to a new city, reestablishing a social group of friends is like, it's one of the hardest things you can do.
Yeah. And it's also like, a good thing to do too, for sure.
Yeah. Well, to get out of your comfort zone and to push yourself in that way.
For sure.
Yeah. So the cops, what's fun about this is the moment where all the plot lines basically run together.
Crescendo.
And exactly. The cops literally crash into Seth, like, and knock him over.
And then the thing.
So Fogel's just in the back seat watching this whole thing go down, but the cops are ready. They basically like they find out the boys have like beer in the laundry detergent, and Bill Hader just pulls his gun out. Like on them. It's like, get on the floor, like, because they're fucked up too, and they're like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah.
And then they're like Fogel, or they call him McLovin because that's what they think his name is. They say McLovin, like, you're gonna write a witness testimony. that these guys like
Pull the gun on us or some
no
shit.
that they they smacked into our car, like they did all these things.
Yeah.
And like they're totally ready to like arrest them and like bring them in. It's just so fucking funny. But then event Fogel gets out of the car and is smoking a cig and makes eye contact with Seth and freaks out, and he drops the cigarette. And I don't think there's a fire, but I think there, it's crazy. You would think with the setup of these things,
it's just a fire. But the alcohol wouldn't light on fire necessarily. But in a movie, you never know. I can't remember.
Or maybe it is a tiny guy. But anyways,
a tiny guy.
A little tiny.
Maybe it's just a
tiny dude, a little man.
There's a little tiny human man.
A little blue guy.
He picks up the cigarette and he
was covered in the laundry detergent.
Yeah, he's hiding, swimming. Okay, so
but anyways,
does he run?
Evan just gets up and starts running, and it's been established that he runs like he plays soccer, right? So he is an endurance runner, and he just starts. It's so great because he just like looks over, notices everyone's looking at Fogel, gets up and starts running. And then Seth just goes the other way. And then they outrun the cops, and they all kind of come back together, and they finally get to Jules's party.
Yes.
And it seems like a lot of people are just sitting around because they don't have liquor, but there's definitely people that have shown up and brought their own stuff because, as Evan, goes to find his date, she's already like plastered drunk.
Oh, it's that one girl from school that he loves.
Yes.
Doesn't love, but just really,
It's Becca.
Becca, yeah. It's his high school little fling.
Yes.
The girl, the unattainable, as it were.
The object of his affection.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, he goes and he's like, oh man, she's really drunk. Like, I don't know about this. Like, shouldn't I not be hooking up with her? And somebody else goes like, oh, you can hook up with her. You just need to be drunk too. And he goes into the bathroom and like drinks a bunch of beer, like to get drunk, and then he's like drunk, and when he goes up to her, and then she's like, "Oh my god!" and like she's so excited to see him, and like feeds him more liquor, and it's basically like, you got to come upstairs with me. There's something I got to tell you. Just laying it on super thick,
super,
and they start to hook up, but he's a bit apprehensive, and you can tell he's uncomfortable just because of how drunk she is. And he's also pretty drunk too. Like, he's like, this is just a lot for me to process while I'm this drunk.
Right. And which, like, everything's firing on all cylinders. Yeah. Even the dull ones from the liquor, you're like,
Exactly. But they're both like, they both just keep talking about like she's like, I flirt with you in math so hard. Like, she says that. It's so juvenile and cute, like in a way that it's just like, they had all this pent up energy. They clearly needed to let it out in a scenario like this, but Michael Cera's character is rightfully identifying that this is not the right time, and it's just nice like that he like doesn't try to push it too far. And then there's also the comedic ending of like, she starts puking like, while they're hooking up, and so like you get a bit of both in there without it being like, he's trying to push his luck and he keeps pushing it, and then she's puking and he's like, oh, this is gross. Like that would have been like, that really would have sucked, like
Straight up.
A lesser movie would have went for something like that, I think.
Yes, too.
Because it's a funny idea, like to puke while someone's hooking up with you. It's funny enough that they reuse it in Booksmart, which is like it's an update on Superbad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's made with two girls. Olivia Wilde directed and wrote it. Co-wrote it. It's pretty good.
I was gonna say, is it stinky?
No. I liked Booksmart.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Well, that's good. I mean, it lands in the movie, the throw up scene.
It absolutely does, and I think it lands a little less in Booksmart even.
Right.
Like, which just goes to show it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say throw up isn't for everyone, but it just taking the way.
But even comedically, like poop. Farts, like throw up, like they're gross out things that like some people are just like, I won't ever touch it. But then it's like every once in a while, like a fart squeaks out and like in the perfect comedic timing in a way you can't explain it,
Right.
Shits
and farts.
Yes, shits and farts.
Shits and farts.
Shits and farts.
Shit.
Yeah, and then Seth eventually catches up with Jules.
Right.
He's also there's a montage of him drinking a lot, like with everyone at the party.
Yeah, when he first gets there.
Yeah, just exactly pouring shots and being like
detergent. Are you feeling soapy?
Well, they all take a shot, and someone's like, "This is to Seth," and someone's like, and they all take the shot, and he's like, and someone's like, "Who's Seth?" And he's like, "I'm Seth," and then he's like, "Another shot on me," and like, yeah, just keeps going. But he's pretty plastered by the time he gets to Jules, and she is playing it really nicely. Like she is a sober person dealing with a drunk person that she likes, like in a very gracious manner, right? Like she could be a lot ruder and could walk away, but she's like at least trying to give him some benefit of the doubt, and because she likes him, and they, I mean, yeah, he asked her to come outside with him.
Oh
God. And then he kisses her, and like it doesn't happen at the right time at all.
Well, because he sets it up, right? Because he's like, oh man, I'm just so drunk. Isn't that crazy how like drunk we are?
Yes, yeah. And then she's like,
I haven't had a drink. And he goes, you're drunk. You gotta be drunk.
Right.
And
you had me get all that liquor. Like,
and then
of
that's
course
when his
drunk.
character falls flat on his face because, like.
Well, no. He kisses her.
I'm saying, not physically. But unfortunately,
No, he falls in like a moment. Like it's after the kiss. He tries to kiss her, and then she again, like I'm not drunk, all that, and then he falls into her face,
right, and
gives her a black eye,
right. The funny thing is when I said that, I meant his actual character, like his mission. Oh, it falls on its face, But then and then you're like, no, but he like actually falls on his face. And I'm like, God damn, he's right. But which both are true.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, he falls flat twice, like, and it's brutal because like he Jules is letting him off the hook.
Yeah, for sure.
When he like passes out and falls into her too, like that way like it's gonna be twice as hard for him to walk this all back now, like when he eventually has to.
And the shot of that is good, dude. The shot of him going, dude.
Oh yeah,
it's good.
You feel the impact for sure. And then Fogel has somehow he's hooked up, or he goes and dances with the girl that he was looking at the beginning of the movie in school, and they end up hooking up in like the master bedroom, and the cops show up. Like Bill Hader and Seth Rogen's characters come in, and they shut down the party downstairs.
For sure, yeah, they charge in,
but they don't. But no one knows what's going on upstairs. Yeah. And so Seth. Evan is like drunken himself to like sleep on the couch. And so Seth basically has to save Evan's character because Evan's passed out on the couch, and so he picks him up and the cops are coming in.
He's all fucked up.
Yeah, he's just running through. He keeps dropping him on the ground. It's just like hella funny because they're just emphasizing that he's not like in great shape. Or like that strong. I mean, carrying your buddy that's your size is not an easy task.
No,
it's a
not.
full fucking human body.
While you're drunk and it's dead weight because they're drunk.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's they eventually get away from the cops though, and the cops break into Fogel's room, and but I think it's another one of those like Bill Hader comes in with his gun drawn. Straight up. like he thinks it's like some fucking trap house.
They're staking the place.
And so but then the girl runs off into the bathroom. Both cops are now in the room, and they're just like, did we just cock block McLovin? Like, what's going on here? And that's when they sit down and they have a talk with him, and they lay it out, that this whole thing has been a setup, right? And not a setup, but just like, hey, we just wanted to relive our glory days a bit. The same way that it's a crazy night for Seth and Evan's characters. It's a crazy night for these guys too, right? Like,
I think Fogel's character kind of breaks. I think he almost cries, and he's like talking.
Oh yeah,
and he's like, oh no,
because he thought he thinks he's fucked. He thinks he's going to jail now because he ran out on these guys, and they're gonna figure out that he's not really 25 or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
whatever you say.
You know, like, and yeah, like, but
And they're like,
they let him down. They're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, buddy.
Yeah. Which is great. It's a great scene too. And then while that's happening, the girl's just like, comes back to grab her purse.
Right.
And she's like,
Like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. And then it's really great because at the end they're like, okay, you know, yeah, like, you know, they're all friends, and he's like, he has a request, right? And so they take him out of the house, like in handcuffs, and he's like fucking pigs, like, get your hands off of me. And then everyone's just like, wow, this kid's a badass.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he goes, I'll come back for you, or whatever, to like that girl. And that girl's like an unattainable like senior, you know, and he's like some skinny freshman, you know.
No, he's a senior too.
You think so?
He is. He's because he's moving in with Michael Cera's character.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're right.
That's a big part of it.
I mean, that's what it looks like at least. But yeah.
No, I mean that's part of why Seth Rogen would have looked too old next to him, man. Like, 'cause he continues to play high schoolers like after this, you know, like, you know, he's in the Kick-Ass movies.
He's also in, which is crazy to think because he's like unrecognizable in this movie comparatively. I had to think about it for a second. He's also in Role Models. With, With I can't remember that guy's name.
What, Paul Rudd?
Paul Rudd, I remember. I don't remember the other guy's name, but it's like he played Stifler. It's Stifler. Yeah. So he's known as Stifler to a lot of people.
Sean William Scott. And that movie actually is pretty cool because he's really funny in it. I think he's one of the funnier. He's the live action role player. Like the LARPer, that's what they call him. But like he's got like the sword, and he's like, I just remember the shot of him on the roof, just like fighting like imaginary people.
Yep. It's a great film. I mean, especially since me and you, like, you know, we like D&D and fantasy. It's cool to see like that back in the day. Is kind of funny to see how different it was like perceived. But his character rules. Yeah, because it gets everyone on board with what he's doing. Exactly.
It's certainly Dungeons and Dragons had certainly fallen back into like nerdy territory.
Sure.
By that era, but yeah, I mean, it was just about to get trendy again. You know. Like Stranger Things makes it cool, you know?
Stranger Things made it dope. But what's interesting about this movie and that movie is he's still young enough to play young roles.
Yeah.
And I feel like he, like you said, he did that for a while, which is great.
Right. I mean, Role Models, is the next year after this. So,
sure.
You know, he's just in this pocket. But Kick-Ass, all of that, he's definitely playing young. Right. Yeah, I mean... The cops basically, after they've taken Fogel out, they know they got to dispose of the cop car and blame it on a crackhead because they're like, there's no other way we can explain all the damage we've done to this.
Oh, right.
So they just like take it out for one more like spin, like Bill Hader's in the car, and he's like, all right, watch this move.
Yeah.
And he tries to do something, and he just like fucking slams the car into like a post. They douse it with gasoline, shoot at it, and just light it on fire.
Yeah, I love in Seth Rogen's character too. Watching him, he goes, "Man, he's still got it." Like to that effect, you know, he's like, "Whoa." It's so good.
And then very quickly, he's like, "Oh no,
no, yeah." So good, yeah. And I like how that's their like resolution. Like, oh yeah, we just gotta fucking burn it and just blame it on.
Right. Just say a crackhead took our car and let someone else find it. You know.
Yeah.
Just killer. And then Seth and Evan are essentially just walking home.
Right.
And Evan's woken up now, and so it's like, I can walk on my own. And it's there's a nice moment because they're just like, what do we do? And like Evan's just like, well, you want to go over to my place? And it's just like, you know, you want to do the usual.
Right.
And he's like, yeah. And he's like, still got pizza bagels, you know, like
so good.
And it's just they're reconnecting, and then they're laying in bed, or they're laying on the floor next to each other, just like with comforters or sleeping bags, you know, and pillows. But they this is kind of like where Seth finally says like, I'm sorry, and owns up to just kind of like some of his like shittier behavior, and it's just a nice like quiet moment, and it's just like it's. You know, he just owns up to everything. I mean, it's exactly the type of resolution you want, like, but it also feels earned.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't feel. I mean, it's just so fluid and like.
Yeah, I mean, they're just talking like friends. They're just like, hey, we're cool, right? And like, I know I was being a dick.
For sure.
Because that's all it takes is like the acknowledgement in a way. It's just like, look, we both know I was out of line, right?
Right.
And
exactly.
but that doesn't change what we are.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool because like the simplicity of like just coming over and chilling, it's like very juvenile and very fulfilling for a lot of people,
When it's very funny too, when like the next morning, like he wakes up and he starts like acting awkward because like he's not used to being like emotionally vulnerable in any capacity, and so
because they're both still fucked up,
right? Exactly. And so he's like, oh man, did I really say and do all that last night? And he's kind of like trying to like sneak out the door, and then Michael Cera's like, well, we could like hang out, like, you want to get breakfast? They end up going to the mall together though. And it's just a nice little. They run into Jules and Debbie.
Yep.
And
which is a great scene too.
It's an awesome scene because it's just like and very casually there's this this great setup of just like, I'm looking for a comforter. Oh, I need a comforter too. And oh, you were gonna buy this eye makeup, to cover up your black eye. And it's like, well, I guess I should be the one to pay for that then if.
Right.
And they just kind of like link up and they're like, okay, cool. And you'll take him home and she'll take him home. Okay, cool. And they just like, they swap. But it is that fulfillment of, look, we can be friends, but we can also let go of each other. Right. They've now grown to that point.
Yeah.
And it's just such a nice note to end on. And also they're going to continue to grow. Now they're finally going to experience life and know what it's like to have a girlfriend.
Purposeful or not too, it's super symbolic of that. It might be a stretch about it, but like them actually physically leaving two ways too with two, like going their own paths. It's super good. But the thing is, like with this movie that you've been touching on as you go, is even to the untrained eye, obviously you have a great cinema eye. Shouts out to him. All right,
cinema span.
Cinema span. You have a great eye and a great mind for film, but the casual viewer will like this film because it's just shot with purpose and the story just makes actual sense. Yeah. And there's good scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why this was such a hit.
Surface and down low, digging down as we are, still good. Fucking fire. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. But it's a beautiful scene. I love that scene. Yeah. And which is cool that I just thought of, and Emma Stone and Jonah Hill have had another show or a movie. I think it's a movie or a show where
it's a Netflix show, right?
Right, and it's where it's just them two as the main roles. It's Maniac.
Yes,
and it is one of my favorites. I know you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't. I'd love to hear you talk on it though.
The chemistry on it is just really fascinating. Like they have a good chemistry, and the concept and how everything's like laid out is super like psychological, and both of their characters are cool because they play a lot of different characters through these like without spoiling anything, but in these like alternate thoughts of themselves
through their like different manic episodes and psychological whatever it is. I don't fully know about the show, but I can understand that
without revealing too much. And it's super neat because they get the chance to flex a little bit as an actor,
right,
while holding roots to their character they're playing in their show. They're playing variations of that character in different circumstances, and they just do very well together because a lot of them circumstances, they're drawn together.
Right. Well,
and they're like relationships and stuff.
And what I was going to say is interesting, at least for that show, comparing like these two actors at these 2 points in their careers, is this is also Emma Stone's first film.
Yes.
This is before Easy A, which is like another like huge hit for her early on. And obviously she's got her own awesome, great career, but she and Jonah Hill both developed as dramatic actors
very much
as they went on. But they both started in like lighter comedies.
Right. That's very true.
And so for them to kind of reconnect at a point where they had both like, they started in the same place and they didn't always progress to a similar place. Cause I think Emma Stone she was nominated for, an Oscar. either for The Favorite or La La Land.
I think it was La La Land.
And then it was La La Land. And then Jonah Hill was nominated for Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh wow!
In a supporting role, I think.
Wow,
I'm pretty sure, or was it?
I don't think it was War Dogs.
It wasn't War Dogs.
I don't think so, because War Dogs is a great movie, but I don't think critics were like, "Holy shit!"
No.
You know,
people were off on Miles Teller back then. You know,
true. As one of my roommates,
Maverick brought him back.
Yeah, straight up. A lot of my roommate during the time, he goes, "Oh, that guy that looks like, he has like a punchable face."
Most people thought he was just Jesse Eisenberg.
May I have a drink?
Yeah. Thank you. Want some water, my man?
Hydrate, everybody.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Okay, cool. We'll take a short break and be right back with Wild Hogs.
Nice. No.
5 pages of notes on Wild Hogs. 2 more than Superbad.
Our notes difference are very interesting. All right. All right.
I mean, there's no other way to start the second half than just laughing at the absurdity of what we are taking on.
Straight up.
Oh, man.
So if you ask people if they have seen this movie, you'll almost get a yes if you're in our demographic of like age. Like 20.
I had never seen Wild Hogs. There's not. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Dude,
like this.
Oh my god.
This totally missed me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did do a little bit of polling of people around the restaurant. Just like, oh, by the way, I'm recording this. Like, what's your thoughts, right? And like, there were quite a few people that were like, Wild Hogs? Like, and it was like the first time they had thought about it in 15 years. And they were like, "Oh yeah, that's funny." Like that was the consensus, right? Man, oh man. I mean, this is barely a movie. Is what I would say.
100%. 100%. And the thing is, it's not even a long movie either. You know,
it's 2 hours.
No?
Or no, 90 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. No, 100. I'm looking. I got it there.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, 140. I'm sure it's
140.
fucking 10 minutes of credits. So it probably is like 90.
Right. But man, I can speak from experience. You asked me about it,
yes,
and I was like,
exactly.
If you guys read the title, you probably are gonna have a similar experience.
You're gonna know what we're talking about, exactly,
because it's Wild Hogs. I mean, come on. Now, if you don't remember Wild Hogs, it's a way better doing it of us talking about it than even watching it. But
I completely agree. This is not something I would recommend anyone to sit through.
It's really close to good bad, but it's kind of just bad good. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess I'm interested what your take on so good or so bad it's good movies are.
Sure.
Because I can get into some of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more of a fan of like camp, where it's like, we know we're doing something cheesy, but we're flipping it. We're doing it on purpose in a way, right? Like we're embracing the cheesiness of this as a stylistic choice.
Yes.
But like, yeah, some of this stuff is just like, it's just bad. Like it feels like watching a TV commercial at points, you know, like it's just so there's no artistic like vision put into a lot of the shots. It's just like, you know, loosely rounded and bright sets, you know, like.
Yes. And also, before we even get started into the plot or that sort of deal, I have to say, bouncing off what you said, this show should have doubled down on one of two things, right? The absolute absurdity, right? Or made it like dramatic.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Like, because there could be like something to be said about like taking this seriously dramatically. You know, like
high stakes, you know, but
well, especially because of the danger,
right,
of like the other biker gang. Like that is actually like when they get introduced, I was like, okay, they actually might be able to do something here, because they like if they, you know, they kind of set up a very Hallmarky like movie, right? Mm-hmm. Except instead of being focused on, you know, like the girl's troubles, it's like focused on the dad's troubles here, right?
Sure.
And And so, I mean, it's a pretty simple setup. They kind of they open the film with all 4 of the Wild Hog guys on their bikes riding, just to kind of be like, we'll get there, don't worry. And then they roll it back and they introduce everyone one by one.
And even so, just for everyone to have a quick refresh, because I forgot the plot completely. The first scene where we'll start with is when I was making annotative notes. He made notes as well, but I was doing it live while I was watching.
Yeah,
and also I was quite inebriated.
I was not sober either. This is not a movie I think anyone willingly starts. Maybe if it's on somewhere and you walk into the room already messed up, you're like, all right, F it.
Right.
I'll sit down and watch that.
My first 4 notes, just so we can all understand where my notes are at. The one was first joke was really bad.
Yeah, they're rough.
And then my second note just says, wow, just wow. Then the jokes are just relentless. What is happening? And then the 4th note is just bad.
So that's the thing, is the experience of this movie is like, you're often put into a scene and you're like, I understand what the dramatic point of this scene is, right? Like they're on the road trip and X thing is happening to them. But it seems that like every scene is only constructed so that they can get to like 2 or 3 punchlines. But then like the punchlines are like the weakest things you've ever seen. Like, and you're just like, wait, why did I sit through that to get to this? Like that's usually how for instance, Tim Allen is the first of the Wild Hogs we're introduced to, right? Yep. He's playing a character named Doug. Mm-hmm. The whole setup of the scene is that Tim Allen is staring at a grapefruit in front of him, right?
Yeah, he looks at his. He's
like, this is my meal, is a grapefruit. And then he looks at his son who's feasting on eggs, bacon,
Big
hash
bites.
browns, a bagel, like everything that like is like, oh yeah, that's a great balanced breakfast of what we love.
There's cereal.
But he's not allowed to eat any of it.
And the thing is, like, a dietary restriction I get, but why just one grapefruit? Like
it's
halved? It's like
I know, and that's the whole thing, is that it's like it's this super reductive, like this is not reality, right? But they constructed a scene in a scenario so that Tim Allen could go, why am I not allowed to eat good things? Yeah. And then other guys who are like just, sitting on their iPad watching this movie on Netflix are supposed to just go like, oh yeah, nice, that's relatable. Like nobody's,
oh man,
like who is actually relating to this and watching it and being like, that's me.
That's
like,
me.
It's like it's all like so surface level and kitschy. It's
Which too, like the Doug, his character, and then his wife talks to him, right? And then
absolutely.
And then his wife's like, "Oh, hey, what about your ALS or whatever?" And then his son chimes in about the same thing. And
exactly.
They're like
your diet, like, oh, sorry, Dad, you can't. Yeah.
And it's a very common thing. It comes back. And
then there's the whole thing too of like, I'm a doctor. I'm a real doctor. Like, because he's a dentist and he's like, oh, I'm a real doctor. And that's like, it's a joke that had like already been played out by this point.
Many times.
But you're just like, he keeps banging the drum because it just means like, I'm insecure about my place right now. Right. And like, and fair enough. That's like the setup for the character. Right.
Exactly. That's his thing.
He doesn't feel cool enough because he's not a real doctor. He's being demasculated by his life.
For sure.
And that's what's happening with all these men.
Yes.
They're trying to find something, through the bike riding, that they're not getting somewhere else. But it's even set up, like Doug's son doesn't like him. It's later.
It's so weird. They're like hella combative.
There's
like
a scene later where he's like, hey son, do you want to go play ball?
Oh no, dude.
And then he's like, sorry dad, can't play video games, too cool.
Yeah.
And then like his friend calls 2 seconds later, like on the dot.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Billy, your dad wants to play catch? Oh man, I love your dad. Let's go play. Yeah. And then Doug's like, what do you didn't want to play catch with me? Yeah. And then he's like, no, he's just got a really cool dad. And then he runs out and then the mom's like, he doesn't know. He didn't know.
No, straight up. The kid says that. And then Doug goes, but you know, I want to, you know? And then the son just goes, well, and then walks out. I swear to God. I was like, dude, no way.
It's the heightened reality of whatever is going on here that you're like, wow.
And then Martin Lawrence's character, because in the beginning of the
Bobby,
movie,
right?
You're getting introduced to every character, and then they do the bike riding scene. And
No. They open on a shot of them riding bikes,
okay.
and then they go back. They show everyone, and then they go back to that same shot of them on the road.
Okay.
But yeah, so he
also,
introduces Bobby. He's a failed writer, right? And his family is a mess. That's what they're saying. It's like he's not in control. He's not the masculine figure head of the house that he needs to be.
Right.
And because of that, all the women in his life are running all over him.
And straight up talking shit to his face.
But like it's so like the take is like it's very reductive, right? Like we know who is writing this and who is telling this story, right?
Yeah.
From what perspective? Because it's the same story for all these guys, you know?
Yeah, just and it's very for the times, I will say.
Yeah, well, dude, I mean, his daughter is like she like dresses, you know, it's the classic.
Oh my gosh, her outfit.
She's wearing an outfit he doesn't approve of,
Yeah.
and she is walking out the door, and he says, "You look like an Eskimo hooker."
Yeah,
because she's wearing like fuzz and stuff, and it's like
it's so weird,
so bad, it's so off.
The wardrobe's just like just anything really,
right?
Anything you want.
But also like she doesn't look like skanky in any way either, and it's
just wear like shorts.
But it's the whole thing. They just need to hit that trope of like,
hey, I'm your dad,
right? Like,
and I don't like that.
Oh, you're not, and whatever, Dad. I'm doing what I want, and then she walks out.
They try to put like this is what this movie tries to do. Like, oh, let's do that, but a little funnier. And well, but he says that like you look like an Eskimo hooker, and she goes, well, that's the point. And he goes, do you want to look like an Eskimo hooker? You know, and then it's like, oh man,
kids
like,
these days, right? So the next Wild Hog that we're introduced to is Dudley, played by William H. Macy, who is like a great comedic talent, and like he is a serious actor in his own right. He is such a weird fourth member of the group to get. Because he's the comedic relief here, and is clearly the one who's like never supposed to be taken as a badass, right?
Yes. Well, he's almost taken as like the complete opposite.
Absolutely. Well, he's like he's like an engineer, or a programmer, and he's like, you know, he's got glasses on. Like even all four of them are wearing different leather jackets throughout.
Oh sure.
And his is the most like fully zipped. It's got pockets on it. It just doesn't look cool. It's like it's more like a tactical like a fighter pilot,
sure,
like leather jacket.
Even like his helmet and everything.
Yeah. Whereas like John Travolta, who we'll get to next, is got like the classic like V cut. Tim Allen's a little more straight laced, and then Martin Lawrence has like kind of like more of a sports jacket kind of one, which looks it works for all their personalities, but it's just funny. Like they did put a little thought into it.
Yeah, it's true.
So Woody, so Dudley, basically he's showing off his tech computer, and he's in a coffee shop surrounded by women, and he's like, ooh yeah, look at my smart computer, and he like presses a button and starts voice activating like,
hello Mac.
Dude, he's like look up I forget what he's trying to look up, but he says open internet please, right? And then the computer goes like command unknown, and then he says it again. He's like, okay, opening internet, and then it says like searching for granny like porn. Like he starts pulling up like granny sex. He says to the girl as like a one-liner, he goes, man, I just need to look at alternative specs. Thank you. Yeah, and he's like, and then the computer's like, oh, looking up alternative sex, and then it starts popping up like a bunch of things. And the thing is, right, when something like this happens, your first instinct goes, all right, I'm just gonna close this laptop, right? No, he does not close it. Starts button mashing. No, he looks at it, he starts pressing a bunch of buttons, and then he takes his keyboard off completely. And my buddy was watching for a second that does tech. And I was like, watch this shit. And he takes the keyboard off, and he puts it to the side, and he grabs like where the memory would be. Yeah. And he takes out the memory thing, but it's still playing. So then he just goes,
and just throws coffee on it. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well,
it's
exactly. The coffee is just like to stop the whole thing, right? And it just blows up and lights on fire. Like it's the dumbest representation of technology you've ever seen. Yeah. But it's so like, oh man, isn't this new tech like crazy, right, guys?
Well, he's just trying to flex. And then I like how the whole coffee shop or whatever he's at gets involved. They're all like,
right.
Oh my God.
And that's what I'm saying is like it's played out like there's no reality to this scene. Yes. But the whole scenario is played out so that a character can have grandma sex playing on a laptop and go, oh no. Like,
but look at me.
It's
so good.
It's just insane. But yeah, so Woody is the fourth member of the Wild Hogs, played by John Travolta.
Okay. Which is arguably probably like the co-lead, I guess. Tim Allen is the lead.
Well, exactly. I think if you had to bill someone, Tim Allen, but exactly. John Travolta is definitely, they're both on the poster in the front, right? Sharing that spot.
Which his character, I will get into later, but wow. If you watch the movie and actually look at his character and like him as a person, it's bizarre.
Well, he's like really like he's one of the few people who like he's not really dealing with his own character problems. He's just dealing with like the situation of the movie,
right?
Because he's holding the secret of blowing up the biker gangs, like
you
bar.
Spoiled it. No, they're not gonna.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You spoiled it.
Spoiled it,
dude. They would not know the twist, dude.
But anyways, I'm saying he's usually just playing out those situations and going crazy about it instead of like going through a journey himself. In a way.
Well, his opening scene.
His whole setup is that he's broke, right?
Right.
And
he gets caught and he goes, whoa, what's that?
No, dude, that's the thing. It's like it's like the most surface level writing you've ever seen where it's like, we got to get this exposition out, right? And it's like, broke? I've never been broke before. What does that mean?
And then he goes, what about my super hot girlfriend's a supermodel? Yeah, or my wife?
Why can't she ever pay for something? And they're like, because she divorced you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're just like, oh man, it's so clunky.
And then John Travolta goes, oh man, you're really telling me how it is, huh? Oh, really? I'm going broke and I'm getting divorced. I'm having a midlife crisis, huh? And then he goes, you're not going broke, you are broke. And yes.
Yeah. And he's like, get out of my office.
So I'm just like, wow, okay.
And then you finally get all the hogs together, right? Like back onto the road.
Mm-hmm. And once you get all of them on the road, you realize like, it's going to set up the trope for the whole movie of Dudley's character.
Yeah.
Or Dudley the character.
Definitely
Dudley. Doodly.
Doodly.
He comes on like last with the biker gang, right? I think it's John Travolta, and their relationship's really funny in the movie a little bit, and he gives him a knuckles. Get into it. He gives him a knuckles, and he gets hit.
That's right.
And he like kind of swerves off and like starts bouncing. Whoa! And I was like, oh great, here we go.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And then he like stabilized and he looks directly at the camera and he goes, man, that was a close one there. I'm really sure glad I didn't do that. Boom!
Yeah, face plants into a like for sale sign for like a house. And yeah, you know exactly what movie you're in. And then the next scene, Dudley's riding on the back of Woody's like bike. And he's like putting his head on John Travolta's shoulder. Yeah. When they get off, like this is one of the few, not one of the few. This is one of the first of many great homophobic like jokes and like threads of this film.
Yes.
Where he's like like Woody is so pissed. He's like, don't ever put your head on my shoulder again.
He goes, I didn't. I was just hiding my fish from the wind. and he goes, I heard you smell me.
And he's like, but you smell so good. And like, it's just like,
it's so good.
It's so bad.
It's so bad, but I love how his character is so like, dude, but you smelled hella nice.
Yeah, no, it's.
And then George Fulton's like, but that's not good.
And that's where like I'm glad he's in here just being unaffected by the homophobia.
Yes.
But like the way it affects the other guys, like and the way they clap back at him it makes it feel like you are not supposed to be on his side.
Exactly.
You're supposed to be on John Travolta's side.
Right.
And you're supposed to think that like
homophobic.
That's
bad stuff.
Guys should not be doing that, man. Like, and that's what's wrong with it, is that it's not about
absolutely.
like it's not about making John Travolta's character more comfortable with his own sexuality as it goes on. It's just about setting him up into scenarios where he can be like, I'm a man, like I'm doing manly things, even though like I'm middle aged, and it's the same thing with like Tim Allen's character and a little bit of Martin Lawrence's too.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just so weird how much that has changed in this time period.
Yeah, just like
it's not necessarily offensive, but it's an extremely bad taste. You know what I mean? It's borderline
exactly.
There.
Well, it's just like it just rubs you the wrong way for a lot of the runtime. And like this was a discussion I had on Blades of Glory where and I even hinted to this earlier in the episode. But just because in Blades of Glory the whole premise aren't male figure skaters funny, right? Which feels homophobic and born of a homophobic like perspective. But that movie does not take that point, and it never feels like hate speech, because it's always making fun of the characters and not like like society in that way or anything. Like not trying to make a point of being like, men are being demasculated in the household because we can't eat the food that we want to eat. No. Our wives are making us be healthy because it's so unmanly to be healthy. Right. Yeah. Like it's a whole web of mess, that to get into, but it's all throughout here,
Right. And so when they're all with each other, all that stuff happens. They land at a location of a restaurant, like their biker restaurant that they go to locally. And that's when you start to see John Travolta's character in full effect. Oh yeah, straight up, these guys are barely friends when you really look.
Absolutely, well, because he's barely friends. They're all in the bar, and like it starts with like the bartender being like, "Wild Hogs aren't allowed here," and it's played comedically. But yeah, like the bartender's like this weird like guy who's like he's talking to John Travolta, and he's like, oh, we got to go out again. Like that day at the spa was really fun. Yeah. And like John Travolta's like very much like, oh no, don't talk about that in front of the guys. And it's like,
it was the weirdest.
But it's the only hint of like that he has a softer side or something, maybe. Sure. But that's spa's not a gay thing at all. Like it's just that's the thing though, taking care of your body and looking nice must be gay.
07 was anything like that is right. Yep, it's gay.
It's like Red Scare, man. Like where they were like, if you do this, you're a communist. Like you could do anything and be called gay. Yep. in 2007.
Straight up. And it's interesting because the bartender is actually, he owns his own like chopper show back in the day.
Oh really?
Yeah, he like him, and then it's his son that comes into the frame. And they used to like fix up choppers. Like it was like West Coast. Can't remember the show.
But. Oh, it's like West Coast Restorations or one of those.
Something like that. Where it's all choppers, father and son.
I'm sure I feel like I watched some of those on Discovery Channel back in the day.
They were just something to watch when TV was actually a thing. So it was a cool nod to like chopper guys,
Oh yeah.
And John Travolta's character kind of just like starts losing it. Man, what are we doing, guys? Right? Come on, like. And then the guy comes over and it's like, we're all wearing jerseys for this parade. He goes, look at this shit. I'm not doing this. We should go on a trip, man. Yep. And like, that's when the idea and the plot of the movie.
Yeah, a bit of it is John Travolta running away from his life falling apart, Yeah, all good. You can take that. Like the other men, he's just trying to rope into it, excitement wise. This is definitely what makes Tim Allen the lead, is that he is like, oh no, he says no, right? And then like he needs to refuse the call to adventure, right? And then he goes home and he talks to his wife about it, and then eventually is like, he like comes around to it, and that's what makes him the lead, because he has to be convinced or whatever. But there is some funny stuff in the bar still. I wanted to say there's this one line where John Travolta is trying to sell them on the concept of the road trip. And he says, come on, guys, the Wild Bunch. Deliverance.
Oh yeah, and then they all go.
And then Deliverance.
Yeah.
Have you seen Deliverance?
I haven't, but I was like, damn, this is definitely like a writer's nod to like something that's either fucked up. Or really
I happened to catch it. I actually happened to catch the Wild Bunch and Deliverance in the last like half a year or so.
Really? Okay.
Because they're just classic 70s things, and Tarantino was covering them in his book Cinema Speculation.
Oh sure.
So I actually caught screenings of both of those films on 35 millimeter.
Wow.
At the New Bev, which is crazy. but so the Wild Bunch is like a classic cowboy movie of just a gang of guys kind of riding through town to town, causing mischief, right? Deliverance it's a story of like 4 guys going on like a boat riding trip, because there's this river that is basically, they're going to dam up this river, and so the river's going to dry out. So they're like, this is the last time we could like ride some like boats down this river.
Interesting.
And so they're like, let's do it. And so they go on, and halfway through, like they like come upon some other boats, and they're like, what's going on here? And like they find like a dude like with a gun out in the woods, and like he like starts hunting them, and like one of the friends gets shot, and like they're like hiding from this dude. They kill the dude, but then his brother is looking for them. And then they end up killing that guy too. and then they barely make it out alive, and like they cover up the story and tell the cops like they didn't do it, because they know they're gonna get fucked, even though like they're both self-defense kills. And so and they just like have to live with that like that dark secret now for the rest of their lives. But the first half of the movie is totally fun and lighthearted, and then there is a tone shift like that, and like it gets so fucking real, and it's like it's just like it's such a awesome turn that like when they introduced the biker gang here, I was like, are they gonna do it? Like, are they really gonna like go for like a genre change? Because it would be insane to set up a movie in all this pastiche of like, oh, it's a Hallmark movie you've seen a million times with the hackiest jokes, and then oh my god, now these guys are in an actual life or death situation, and like
Tim Allen in an
suddenly
action film?
like, well, just like their quips aren't going to be enough, right?
For sure.
And yeah, but that is not the movie we have.
No. So that's why they said the Deliverance thing, and I love that.
It was one of those like, and it's a classic. It's for the dads.
Oh sure.
It's because that's not a movie that
watch with the kids.
Neither of these, I like. If I hadn't caught that, like those screenings, I would not know about them. And they're part of the film canon, but people our age have not heard of these films. Yeah.
Very interesting. I was curious.
Thank you for entertaining it.
I mean, it is, because I watched that part and I was like, something's funky about that. Now it makes perfect sense, because they're like, Deliverance, shit, But then after that, they all go talk to their respectives. Right? Or
well, that's this is where we get into let's convince our wives that this is a good idea, right? And
besides John Travolta, of course.
Well, right. No, you're right. When Doug's got to convince his wife, right? But he still like, he brings up the idea, and he's like, I don't know, I'm not into it. And she's like, what? You couldn't, she's like, you can get the time off of work. He's like, I don't know if I can get the time off work. She's like, I guess so. And like, it's just one of those like,
now this scene,
man, that's life, right? Like you just can't get away from the old job. And then he goes to dinner.
They're talking. And then she says, correct me if I'm wrong. She goes, and like, man, your age out there,
Oh, she's poking fun at him. Like, you couldn't handle it,
Right. And then,
which starts to get him.
And then his son's like, yeah, dad, like you're
old.
Yeah. And you have that thing, I don't know, that makes you eat grapefruits or some shit, And then he goes, oh, really? And this is
Well,
when he gets all riled
and
up,
now
right?
now they're at dinner.
Okay.
And yes, exactly. Everyone's like picking on him, and he's like, "What? You think I can't handle these foods?" He's like, "I'm young," and he just starts grabbing things and eating them, and he grabs a stick of butter, and he's like, "I'll do it." And he eats that, and
Dude, he said he said, "Dad, this is how the French do it. They eat it right off the stick."
Exactly.
He takes a bite and then takes the gravy and starts drinking it. And they're just watching.
This felt classic Tim Allen to me, because
sure.
Tim Allen has been like on Home Improvement now for like a couple years, I think, at this point, and like he is just like in full sitcom dad mode, right? And like this is totally him doing his shtick. They're just like, like let him do it. Like this is probably his bread and fucking butter,
straight up,
and
no
butter.
pun intended with the butter eating. Oh God! And it's to me, watching this scene inebriated, I was laughing my ass off, not because of Tim Allen. I was just like, dude, this
in spite of him,
Yeah, I was like, dude, his family is talking shit to him, and now he's just straight up losing his mind. Like he's straight up off his fucking rocker. He starts eating shit, and then his kid and his wife just sit there and they just watch him just straight up spiral out of control. And it is so fucking funny for that reason.
They end up having to take Doug to the doctor,
right? Because he's like, well, I'm not okay. And then he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and so like while he's in there, the doctor comes in and he's like, "Oh, I'm a doctor, like you can give it to
give it to me straight, doc. I can understand it."
Exactly. And the doc says, "Yeah, oh, perfect." And then he just like goes off and explains like what happened.
Your hydrodictylflacmia is actually clogging your choroidal, just starts like
you nailed it. And then immediately Tim Allen deflates just into, "I'm a dentist," which I hate this fucking bit, how dumb this joke is, but like the reversal still got me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it at least had some inventiveness past like the initial cliche, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is a lot of their jokes.
Yeah.
They build off a cliche. Sometimes it's just the wrong way, and this one is okay. It was all right. It works.
And so, all the boys basically agreed to take this trip to nowhere.
Because Martin Lawrence's character kind of just pulls up out of nowhere, because I think Doug and Woody talk, and they're like, "All right, yeah, I'm in,"
Yeah.
And then Martin Lawrence's character just pulls up and goes, "All right, don't tell my
wife where I'm at."
Yeah, as far as my wife knows, I'm at a toilet conference in Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Yeah. And they're like, "What the fuck? Why?" And he like has to go back to this place called The Firm, but it's actually like a toilet company.
Oh yeah, how did I forget? Jesus Christ! Yeah, it's played exactly like, because it's played as a dialogue gag of like, "You're gonna have to go back to the firm. Do you think the firm will take you?" Like it sounds like a nice cushy job,
right?
And then that's the name of the plumbing company that he's working for, and of course they took him back because no one wants to be a plumber. Yeah. Even though like it's a fucking trade that is like, people make a lot of money doing.
Oh,
and
for
like
sure.
Is a
union.
Like,
and it's so fucking funny because when this like idea of a plumber, I was like, wow, I forgot that was even a joke.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, it's like he may as well have been a janitor,
right?
A trash collector, like whatever the fuck it is.
That's
like,
when people were like,
are
"Oh,
all great jobs too." Like, yeah,
straight up. And the whole entire he gets called. He goes, "So you have a client already at 8?" And he goes, "All right." And it's like this guy's gas station, and the toilet's clogged up. He goes, "Oh yeah, it's really bad in there." Also, my dad died yesterday.
Oh my god!
And
yeah.
like, and he goes, and today's even worse because of that. Like shit like that.
Well, the gas station dude's like, "I got robbed yesterday."
Yeah.
He's like, "You have the worst job, man." Like, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, a plumber's job is just to clean up shit. It's like so far from the truth. You know what I mean?
But like, also, what's the point of that scene? The point of that scene is to say that like, service workers are embarrassing, and that those jobs are inherently embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like the joke is not on Martin Lawrence's character. I mean, it is a little bit because he's been reduced to this level.
Yeah.
But it's like, like what is this film saying? It's literally in its text saying like, these jobs are less than human. These jobs are not like, aspirational, which don't get me wrong. No one wants to work in a gas station for their whole life.
Sure.
But like, it's
just do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you're just like, man, it's very unnuanced, its take on the world, right?
Right. But then that's his character motivation is like, no, fuck this. and my wife's yelling at me
Yeah,
and shit.
yeah. And so, they all meet up and they kind of smash each other's cell phones in like a very dumb, sense of logic, which is so funny because this feels like a thing that they do in movies of this era where they're like, oh, all of our problems could be solved with a phone call now that we have cell phones. Mm-hmm. So how do we come up with an excuse to not have cell phones?
That's true.
This is one of those like at least kind of funny ones where it's like they're smashing each other's phones and they just don't have them now, right? And they would need a landline because of the setup of tech in this era. But there's other movies that, the classic horror cliche of like, I can't find a bar and I'm in the middle of the woods, right? It's not great, but it's also just interesting to point out because I think movies today still don't do well with the implementation of technology. Yeah. And 2008 is like when the iPhone basically hits.
Sure, the original one.
Yeah, I mean, this is like really like a, like the culture's already changing a bit, but it hasn't fully changed over, and like that I feel like that's the big threshold point.
Right.
Yeah.
And also there is a scene right before that. It's like, oh, well, I have the GPS on my phone.
Right.
And he looks at it and it's like whoa, how'd you do that? And he's like, oh, let me see that.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
It's the dumbest like reasoning to smash their phones and like, but they just fucking do it. And they start riding their bikes. All the songs that they pick for these guys to ride their bikes to are just like they're dad rock songs. Like the first one was Slow Ride. This one's like they're riding bikes and it's like ride like a man. It's just like
one of my biggest issues with this film is the score, right? So the score
Well, the score or the soundtrack?
See, that's what I was about to say because the score is how you implement the music.
Yes.
The songs they picked are not bad songs at all, right?
You're totally right.
One of the biggest examples is right before they go on the trip when it's diving into John Travolta's character and it's showing you a little bit. He is on an argument on the phone, right? It just shows he has no money. He has money problems. Mm-hmm. He's yelling at this person. Oh, I can't do that. Well, I need I can't pay you more than that. And like, he's like in an intense conversation and he's walking down the hallway and he's doing his thing. I'm like, if you had a different score on that, because it's like playful. And
right.
And it's intense. And then he goes out and there's a kid and he's arguing with the kid over the money.
That's right, dude.
To rake the leaves.
I forgot. That's the one Travolta scene you get. Like, of his like life before the road trip.
And which is unhingedness.
That is such a good joke. I actually genuinely thought that was one of the better ones in the movie.
Which just, if the score was different though. The whole entire scene could be completely different. Yeah. Because he's straight up yelling and like pissed off at this kid. Right. It's so good.
But you're right, because it's like most of the scoring is just like generic like filler like placeholder stuff like that they usually like have these like soundtracks that they just throw over clips while they're editing it and then they're like we'll get the final score later.
Exactly.
Sounds like the temporary track's still there.
Exactly.
And even you're right, the songs too, like Slow Ride like makes sense. Like it was like they got a list of 10 songs that are about like being a man, riding a bike. But
they just lonely man.
It was almost like they alphabetized them.
Sure.
And just threw them into the different sequences. Right. It's just like, oh, we need to cut of the guys riding now and just throw in one of those songs we licensed.
And the thing is like, so it's heavy lifting is in the beginning and then sprinkled in the middle and then at the end. Because the rest, the filler, is literally just B-rolls.
Of them riding on the bikes.
Of them riding the bikes. And the shots are like, okay, like it's pretty. But it's just so frequent, and the score is the same, and they're just
it's they don't look that cool on their bikes. That's the problem.
You can tell they're like going like a slow mile an hour just in case, because they all don't know how to actually.
Because they're either shooting the actual actors on the bikes in like mid to close up shots, and so they're only getting like a little bit of them traveling at a time, or it's like so wide that it's 4 stunt guys like on bikes,
right?
And even then, drones, like they're not doing anything crazy, right? Yeah, you're right. Maybe there's a helicopter shot or two.
Yeah, just like
but like it's most of it's just like It's just weak,
slow,
man.
or it's super weak,
Well,
and it just doesn't land. It's just not cool.
I was telling you off mic about Death Proof, and it's the opposite of Death Proof, because in Death Proof, like Tarantino had them driving the car at like 80 miles per hour for some shots, and you can tell how fast it's moving.
Wow.
And it's like, it was definitely some of the most dangerous like stuff he had done, but it's awesome.
I mean, it looks so goofy in this because they're going so slow. So, I mean, you're going to know the difference, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing that I have on the notes is hilarious. And this scene is probably one of my favorite scenes. Okay? And it sets up like a lot of like the type of humor again. They're riding, and then these girls in like a Jeep.
Oh, yeah.
Riding by, and they're all like, yeah, woo! And it's like 6 of them. And like they're like wearing like bikinis or whatever.
And again, this is part of the B-roll of the movie. Like there's no like proper lines of them interacting. It's just like, it's all the visual information of them driving by.
The only word I heard was like, hey, what's up? And then one of the girls going, you're hot. And I was like, there's no way. But then the next scene right after it starts raining. It starts raining.
Yep. And so
they park their bikes, right? And they don't go inside anywhere. They just sit on the side of the road instead with a tarp over them.
I don't think they're by any buildings. I think they're
there's buildings straight in the background. I swear to God.
Really?
Yes, I swear to God.
They're not on the highway?
Dude, no. There's buildings right in the background. And I see them, they're covered up. You know,
they're in one rain tarp.
Yeah, they're in one rain tarp. And then the same girls come by and they're like, ha, losers.
Yep.
And I was like, what is happening? I was like, that is like there's no way that actually like what happened. Like first, like not like 20-year-old like good looking
they would
lady.
give a shit, like, you know.
First say you're hot, and then see you go, dude, look at those hot guys, and they're like, do you need a ride? Like,
I mean, they're mocking them the whole time for sure, but it's also like, what's the point here? We're just supposed to further identify with these guys who the one thing they have is riding.
It's so goofy.
I
love this scene, but
they go and camp out. And they're setting up a big tent. They set up the tent. They're all sitting around the campfire now, right? And Tim Allen's roasted marshmallows. Dudley comes in. He's literally wrapped his own shit, like in a plastic bag.
Yep. They keep arguing what to do with the shit.
Yeah.
And they're both like it's such a funny
go
scene.
put it on on a tree branch, so or like
bears don't get it.
It's like bears don't eat shit. Like
and then when he comes back,
then
when he comes back, it's one of the only scenes in the movie, in my opinion, where it was almost a good scene. It was almost a good scene because then they start to open up. And they're actually creating depth to the character, like all these problems that they're having.
Because he has that line. He's like, "What are we doing?" Like you ever wonder that's what it is. You ever wonder what happened to your life? And it's very bad. Like the intro into it, but you're right. It gets to the heart of like, okay, now the guys are opening up, and something could actually happen here.
And then they just ruin it immediately. I mean, immediately.
Because that's the thing is like. They're dealing with a view of masculinity that doesn't allow for emotional expression.
Sure.
And obviously this is a comedy film, so like, you know, you're gonna undercut scenes with jokes anyways. But you have to pick and choose what scenes you let land emotionally.
Sure.
Right? Because Superbad does that, and then they have other scenes that are just all about the jokes, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, Tim Allen's marshmallow lights on fire, and he flings it behind him, and it lights the tent on fire.
Yeah, he just goes, "Oh, I don't want this one." Boop.
Exactly. Yeah, and then Dudley like goes and he tries to grab the water, and then he throws gas on it. Like it's all so dumb. Yeah. But it's just like, okay, man. Yeah, sure. They all need to sleep in the same bed together, so that we can make a gay joke. Like that was the goal of this too, right? Like so that we could get to that.
And of course Dudley is on Woody. Cuddling
him. When they sleep, yeah. So Martin Lawrence has been blowing up an air mattress, and they were making fun of him for blowing it up, and now they all have to sleep on it and use one like sleeping bag kind of draped over all of them. And Martin Lawrence, the joke is that he's the only one off of the mattress. It's like fine, nothing wrong there, but just like
a little goofy.
That's the thing. There's a lot of jokes in this film, and like it, at least as far as comedies go, is attempting like a very rapid pace of jokes, which I can appreciate, but I more prefer to take the absurd logic, like we kind of said earlier, of the world and just keep playing with absurdity rather than like just having saying a lot of mean things about other people and putting other people down and then laughing at them. Like that just doesn't, that's not the spirit of a comedy film.
It's a cheap way out for a joke. You know, at the time you're just exploring like the joke tropes.
Absolutely. And it was easy to those were the things that people were accepting of, you know, the easy jokes you could tell.
Also at this moment, right before the next scene happens, I remember where I know Dudley's character from. And I just hear in my head, Dr. Grant. And it's from a fucking Jurassic Park. So I just started thinking, oh, that's Dr. Grant guy.
Yep.
When he's like always talking to the main character saying Dr. Grant.
Jurassic Park 3?
Yeah.
Looks like he's in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of a banger.
It is. No, he's really good. He's in a couple Coen brother films, Fargo and Barton Fink. He's really good in. And then, he's also in Boogie Nights and Magnolia, which are two Paul Thomas Anderson movies.
Wow.
He's really, really awesome in those too. But just pops up in a lot of random stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. Inland Empire, like the David Lynch film, like cool, you know? It's just like, it's
funny that we're talking about actors and what they played in before too, is because right after they're having the scene on the mattress, a cop walks up.
Well, right. Which is played by, oh man, what's this guy's name? I had it.
And my note on this was, what happened to this guy? I do not see him act in anything. I haven't seen him act in a long time, but I know he's in a lot back in the day.
Well, he's really good. He was he's from whatchamacallit, from Scrubs.
Yes. Yes.
I thought I wrote his fucking name down. That's
I can't. No, it's okay. I just can't remember.
No, it's John C. McKinley. But yeah, I mean, he's in a lot of stuff. He's in Point Break and Office Space. He plays the boss in Office Space. You know, with the suspenders, and he's like he's I mean,
but he kind of
he can transform pretty well.
He never really got anything out of the spotlight after this film, and from my eyes, I haven't seen a lot of stuff with him afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
which is kind of unfortunate. But in this movie, his character kind of just like doesn't have a lot of room to grow.
So rough,
so rough, very one-dimensional.
Well, so like we said, you know, the last scene was about all the men sleeping in the same bed together,
right?
And he's playing a cop, and he comes up on the boys and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna, you know, charge you for indecent exposure and all of this," and like he's fucking with them, but it's revealed he's like, unless you want one more guy to hang around with you, like the
last charge is one jealous man. He pointed at himself, and right before he walked up, or he might have been there the whole time, they don't know. They were saying a lot of stuff that can be misconstrued as gay.
Exactly.
Like, Martin Lawrence was like, "Man, I was blowing that thing for 3 hours and he goes,
and I had to sleep
finish
over
that
here.
Sentence, please." That's literally verbatim what he says.
It's rough.
It's rough.
Yeah, and that, unfortunately for his character, that's the only use that he has in the film. But you got to make a living, man.
Straight up.
That's a living.
Straight up. And then...
but yeah, they get back on their bikes, right?
Another B-roll. Terrible score.
Another B-rolls. Well, the real bikers come by.
They fly by. It's like a group of 50 people probably riding bikes.
Yes, definitely like 50 dudes. And again, this looks a little cooler than what they're doing. Doesn't look that cool, though.
Just cool. This is a lot of people, I guess.
Because of the size and the amount of bikes driving by is why it looks cool. And because like every time I feel like you do this type of thing, you get real bikers and you get people that have distinct looks, like to come in. But I don't know. I wasn't noticing too many background actors. Some of them look kind of fun, but yeah, I mean, the boys get back on the road. There's a gag here. More B-roll footage, right?
Yeah, more B-roll.
Dudley gets hit by like a bug, and everybody like is laughing at. Or no, Tim Allen gets hit by the first bug,
right?
And then the other boys are laughing at him. Martin Lawrence and Dudley get hit by their bugs.
Yeah,
and then John Travolta's laughing
through everyone,
and he's like ha ha ha, and then he gets hit by a crow.
Yeah,
which it's a pretty good physical bit. It's at least it's funny to watch, you know.
On my notes, I said, get it? Because it's a bird. So that's where my mind was. I was like, all right, yeah.
I mean, yeah, man. I think I got the point of that joke.
Get it? Because it's a bird.
But, you know, there's another scene here where they've pulled off to like a hot spring off the highway, and they're all bathing, and Dudley walks up. And he takes off his underwear and gets in, and the guys are like, "Why did you just get naked? Like none of us are naked under here." And it's another one of those, like that is a funny conceit, but then it starts to unfold into like more homophobic stuff.
Yeah, because the classic man,
right? And like they take the right angle where they're like, "I thought this trip was about doing whatever, you know, and being free," and so like John Travolta is like the last holdout, and he's like, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." But when he takes off his underwear, he's like, "Oh, you boys better not look at me or I'll kill you."
Yeah.
And it's like he sounds like, to use a phrase, like a pussy more than like any of the other fucking dudes that he's calling pussies like for this whole fucking like ride. Like that's where the logic of all this like doesn't even make any sense, because it's like I was a teenager boy, and like me and my best friends saw each other's dicks all the time, and it wasn't gay in any capacity, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's just like the type of shit you are doing, you know? And so like for him to like melt down at that, just goes to show like what a baby I feel like these guys are in a lot of these situations, and how like their feelings of being emasculated are you know, they're all made up. They're all coming from them. They're sourced from their own insecurities.
For sure. Damn, that toxic masculinity hits hard.
Hits hard, man. But rant aside, a family joins, right? And it's a very funny beat to play out, because now they're all naked. They can't get out. Right. They've thrown their underwear away. And there's a weird bit with the dad where he's like, they're like, "Oh, don't come in here. There's like snapping turtles." And he's like, "Oh, let me catch one."
Oh, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to get one." No, it's crawfish.
A crawfish, right?
They said, "Be careful of snapping turtles." Like, "Oh, nothing about that." And then he goes, "There's crawfish." And he goes, "You hear that, boys? Crawfish."
I'm going fishing. Yeah. And he very clearly grabs one of the guys.
Oh, he finds a crawfish.
And then comes up and is like, "We gotta go." It's just, again, it's just plays so
run,
hacky.
Kids, run! I just touched a guy's dick.
Yeah.
Ah!
And then the patrolman comes in and as the button of this, and it's like, "You guys got room for one more?" And he's naked too, and like again, that's all he's allowed to do for the rest of this film.
I'm gay, and hey.
All right, we're gonna burn through the rest of this. Yes. So the boys all hit a biker bar because they just need a drink, whatever. Mm-hmm. They get in there, and then this time it's actually like no Wild Hogs allowed, like played for real. Whereas it was played as a joke before. Right. And Ray Liotta,
baby,
is playing Jack. I mean, the lead of the biker gang, and Ray Liotta is the fucking king.
Yep.
I mean, we don't need to say it because I feel like everyone knows, but
and he looks so young in that movie in comparison to when we saw him at the restaurant.
Oh, dude. Well, we saw him very late. We saw the late Ray Liotta. Yeah. I mean, and he still looked like he had so much presence. Like if that makes sense, like he had the intensity that he has. Easy. Like in Goodfellas and
for sure.
Actually I really love this movie called Something Wild. It's directed by Jonathan Demme, who directed The Silence of the Lambs, and some other really good films. But the first half of it is played like a rom-com, and it's like a fun road trip movie with these two, like, people, the guy and a girl who are getting to know each other and kind of falling in love, but they come from different places. And she ends up bringing him to her high school reunion, and Ray Liotta shows up as the ex-boyfriend.
Oh, shit.
Who, like, just got out of jail.
Oh, shit.
And, like, But like he starts like they get in his car and like leave the reunion, and the entire tone of the movie changes again. It's like the Deliverance tone shift, where all of a sudden Ray Liotta's presence and his menace and like just energy is like
flips on a dime.
Oh, dude! I mean, because he like robs like a convenience store. Like he's starting to like, try to push out this new guy and like hook back up with his ex and like just doing all sorts of shady stuff. And like, the new guy's got to basically fight to get her back. But it takes a very dark and violent turn by the end of the film too. And he is incredibly, like he is just so honed in on the menace and like the intensity of that character. I was really hoping like he would be bringing a lot more of that here too. Because I was like, I've seen this work before, right?
Yeah, which he does to effect.
He's good, but he also knows like what type of film he's in, and he's not gonna go that hard because the material's not there to support it at the end of the day.
Also, when he's sewn, it's like a music trope where they walk in, the music cuts, and they look at him.
The record scratch.
Yeah. Oh my god, who was that?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
my boy.
It's very funny when the boys are all. It's all the Hogs minus Dudley at the table, and they're trying to like act like they're trying to act like they're badasses and like that they belong here. So they start talking each other up. They're like, oh, he's really dangerous, man. You don't want to mess with him. It's a kind of fun bit. And then, but then Dudley comes through and just kind of like explains exactly who they are, right? Yeah. Oh, we're all just suburban dads here.
Yeah. And we are a gang. And then he says that and he's like, oh, really? And
then, Ray Liotta does this whole trade thing. He's like, oh, you liked my bike out front? I'll trade it for yours. And then when they go out front, he's trying to give him this scrap bike, and he's fucking with him. But he takes Dudley's bike and says like, get the fuck out of here, guys. And the guys like start to go home because they actually like believe that maybe they should, maybe they're not real bikers. And then Woody, played by John Travolta, is like, I'm not gonna let this stand.
Yep.
He goes back and he cuts the gas lines on like all the bikes.
Yep.
And then steals back Dudley's bike.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy, but it's also like, it's one of those moves you've seen like in one of these,
Sure.
And as they basically, he lies to the group about it. And just, they start going, they continue their road trip, worry free. And, the bikers see them passing by. And then they all get on their bikes, and then they realize, their bikes are all fucked. Ray Liotta's character drops his cigarette, lights all the gas on fire, and blows up the bar that they were in.
Right. And also, John Travolta, when he comes back with the bike, he just straight up lies to everybody.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Like 3/4 of the movie,
dude, he's like, I just talked to them and said like that I was going to sue them. And that's that. Like, it's wild. Hogs.
Wild Hogs.
Wild Hogs.
And another thing, great song gets played during these moments, and it's just at the wrong time, and it just doesn't work. Like, especially when he's cutting the things.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
There's a lot of homophobia jokes coming from Ray Liotta and his crew too.
There is a really funny line though that someone says, "Dudley, I bet you bag your own shit," and he goes, "How did they know?"
Oh yeah, when Ray Liotta calls everyone out, it's so perfect. So then they just roll by. I mean, the song, like I said, sucks. I mean, for the moment, it's really good, and it's a good song. And then they go, and they stop to a gas station and need to fill up. And then John Travolta just lies, man, let's just get on the phone. Well,
exactly.
Man.
He's so worried because he's the only one who saw the bar explode.
Literally,
behind him.
it's just
and it's so funny.
Everything
you
explodes.
see one shot in his windshield,
yeah,
and it is like the worst CGI like explosion you've ever seen. But that's what we're working with, That's
07 CGI for you, yeah, exactly.
But they're basically the gang's now searching for the boys. They're gonna kill them.
Yeah, for sure.
And the boys all run out of gas because Woody made them run out of town, and they're pushing their bikes up the hill.
Because there's a warning sign that said 200 miles.
Right.
Yeah, right, though.
200 miles until the next gas station.
Yeah, right.
You're like,
no way.
Sure,
But it was funny nonetheless, and it got them all stranded.
Again, it's a cliche. Like, haven't you seen that sign a million times in a movie?
Yeah.
And you know exactly what the next scene is going to be, too.
For sure.
But yeah, they get in. They get into a town, and basically, like, the gas station is closed on Sundays. Because why not? Sure.
But the diner's open.
But the diner, yeah, go into the diner.
And they go into the diner and they start wreck havoc.
Oh, it's so funny because they're
petrified.
Well, they're so thirsty. They're like, we need water, and they just start yelling and like acting crazy, grabbing stuff off of tables.
Completely unhinged.
But everybody thinks that they're from the biker gang because they are dressed up in leather jackets and stuff, and so everyone actually like moves out of their way, which is like a fun detail. It sets up the history that this town's had.
True.
With this gang.
True.
And yeah,
but the way they acted, I was like, oh god.
Dude, it's absurd. And,
it's so bad.
Yeah, and you meet Maggie, the owner of the diner, who's played by Marissa Tomei, who is awesome. I think most people probably know her from the new Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. She plays
mom.
Aunt May.
Right. Oh, she's the aunt. Yeah, that's right. The mom.
Yeah, but she's the mother figure of the films. It's
Yeah, she rocks.
Also,
after this, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we also meet the sheriff, who's played by Stephen. Oh man, I didn't see that. I didn't look that one up. Stephen Tobolonsky.
Right. Yes. Yes, him.
This guy's. Most people would probably remember him from Groundhog's Day.
Oh.
He's like the annoying guy who
the golfer, right?
I don't know if he's a golfer, but he just keeps coming up to Bill Murray's character and going like, "Oh, hey, are you blah blah blah? Remember me? I'm from high school." But he's also in Silicon Valley in a really funny role.
Well, interesting.
But the boys are basically just,
and they're invited to the chili cook-off.
Right. Well, that's the thing. The boys realize they have to stay in town because there is no gas.
Right.
They're like, don't worry though. There's a chili cook-off tonight and tomorrow. It's gonna be great. You know,
the sheriff knows they're not part of the Del Fuegos. So
right. He takes that out. There's they go to the chili cook-off. And
one of my favorite characters is here.
Well, Bobby is like is like he's throwing he's playing one of the games, the carnival games.
Yes.
And he
hit down the pins.
Yeah, and he throws the ball and it hits Tim Allen in the nuts. It's just like
Bullseye Bobby, baby. Bullseye Bobby. and he go to Tim Allen and goes, "What do they call me?" He goes, "Bullseye Bobby." Goes, "Oh yeah." And it's just such a funny trope.
Just more bits.
During this, there's also, Kyle Gass is?
No.
From Tenacious D.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry, yes.
Kyle Gass is there, and
that's right.
He shows like 4 scenes of them, and they're awesome.
Well, he's singing "Don't You Want My Body," like, if you want my body, and you think I'm sexy.
Don't you think your girlfriend is hot like
that's
me?
Right, that's what it is.
Don't you? It's all don't you? All that, and it's Kyle Gass.
He's playing it funnily, even though the joke is on him. Very clearly here.
The joke's on him, but as it aged, it's awesome. It's just awesome now. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just a cool scene to watch him like sing and dance. It's Kyle Gass.
He is a good get, like for a cameo.
He's great.
Yeah, and Dudley is eating this hot chili. It's too hot for him. Just
it's Maggie's chili.
Yeah, Maggie's chili. Just another classic like joke. It's just all really by the mill like stuff. Like honestly, for the rest of this, like they're just setting up. These boys got to connect with these townspeople, and they're gonna fight off the biker gang, which they eventually have to, because the boys discover them. Like two of the bikers discover them there and call back, and but the Wild Hogs see the Del Fuegos. They see the Del Fuegos, and they and Bobby goes up to him and starts being like, "Oh, were you not afraid the first time? We'll sue your ass," all that stuff. And he takes like some ketchup and mustard and sprays it in their face. Just another one of those. When has that ever happened in reality, where someone just sits and lets you do that?
Yeah, the guy goes and goes, "Don't."
It's like, "Don't.
Jake will kill us." It's like,
it's so funny. Like, but they have to stand here.
Yeah.
And they can't walk away.
I can't block my face. I just go.
Right. I just have to look like a badass. It's the thing that only happens in a comedy movie. Yeah, and then there's just like one of the guys has a line about like the beer. he's like, oh, we don't drink that. We don't drink that. That's fucking it's fucking warm.
Yeah.
He's like. That tastes like piss. It's warm. It's like, yeah, if we drink piss,
it'd be cold.
It's gotta be cold.
And that character
like,
the
what?
whole time is making shitty jokes like that.
Absolutely.
He's just the tall, burly
He's just
guy.
the dumb guy that's really big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that Tim Allen's character is constantly yelling at John Travolta. He's saying, Woody, do this. Woody, do that. Woody. Tim Allen's like most popular character is Buzz Lightyear, who is always yelling Woody.
Oh, that's
in
right.
those movies. I was like getting this whiplash, I've heard this, I've heard that inclination of Woody. I was just like, how do they name him that and get away with this at all? It's a Disney movie too. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, right, because maybe I don't know.
Or I guess Old Dogs was. I don't know if this was Disney too.
Old Dogs was.
Fair enough. But yeah, I mean. This is basically this is where the Wild Hogs come in the next day. They get Dudley, they hang him up on a tree, and the Wild Hogs are like, all right, we got to face the music, and they ride their bikes. They try to like kind of swoop Dudley off and do this cool maneuver, and they fail.
Well, right before this, like I'm not gonna touch on anything crazy, but. This is when John Travolta's character gets exposed.
Oh, that's right. Of course.
And then that's when he gets caught in his lie. And
because
it's just
the whole gang
ridiculous.
has showed up. He can't run from the lie anymore.
And then that's when it becomes apparent that these guys are just so close to being friends. But you know what I mean? They don't feel like friends.
No, they do not. Exactly. It feels like you got four guys
it doesn't build
in the room.
Why they know each other at all. It's like, oh, we went to school. And we're like, oh, okay,
No, you're right. It's all circumstance. It's all because we want these guys to hang out. Yeah.
Right. But then they band together and, they have like, oh, fuck you, we're going here. And then they go back and Dudley gets captured. That's when they're like, okay, we'll allow you back in because Dudley's got captured. So they have this plan to go. And it goes terribly, of course. A comedic effect. Tim Allen's supposed to jump off of his bike, grab
it makes
him,
no sense.
and it's gonna fly, or I don't.
But what's fun about it is that they try to do something cool and it fails, and then they truly are left face to face with these guys.
Yeah,
and they just fight them. I mean, straight up, you just watch the Wild Hogs get the shit beat out of them, which rules. There's not a lot of films that will just let their main actors just get fucked up, especially because that is an actual bit of demasculation that movie stars worry about. They don't want to be portrayed as being beat up because they don't want to be seen as weak. It's like a whole fucking thing. The Rock won't lose a fight in any movie he's in. Right. It's in his contract.
Oh, really?
I kid you not.
That's pretty cool.
People think about that stuff to that extent. So, just for this, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice that they're not.
Also, in this movie, Ray Liotta's laugh is completely
unhinged. Yeah, he's having a blast. With whatever he's doing.
And my roommate that was watching was like, "Oh, he's probably coked up because of Tim Allen." And I was like, "What the fuck do you mean?"
He didn't know.
And then he goes, "You don't know Tim Allen's running a coke ring?" And I was like, damn, okay.
And Tim Allen has a line in this about I used to do more drugs or something. I used to get high.
He calls himself the Golden Knight.
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah, I am aware.
And right before he does that thing, he goes,
"Call me it, right?"
Yeah, call me the Golden Knight. But after this happens, they get in that fight, right? They get into that fight. It goes, and this is the pinnacle, all the characters, everything that we built, which is very little. Very, very little. This is seriously the end of the movie. We're not really skipping.
I know, this
anything.
is it. This is it, man.
The cop gone. It doesn't matter. They're in the city, and they're facing it. And then they just won't back down. And Ray Liotta's character's like, seriously? You guys aren't going to back down? And then the town comes up and goes, well, if they're not backing down, they can handle
exactly.
We're
if 4 Wild Hogs can stand up to you, then why can't we stand up to you too? It's like every person in the town had the same thought at the same time.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
And I like how the town's so involved. You know what I mean? Like they would not give a shit.
But it's classic movie construction shit, right?
Like everyone's on board immediately.
The town is a character. That's why they spent time wooing the town, right?
Right.
And dancing in front of the town and whatever.
Yeah, because they're like, oh yeah, we're you know, we talked him up and like they're or whatever.
What I do like is that the bikers aren't gonna step down. Like it's still played out. Like they're not gonna. They're still like, fuck you guys, we'll fight. But then Blade is the name of this biker who pulls up.
This scene
and Blade is played by Peter Fonda. And Peter Fonda very famously is one of the two bikers in Easy Rider. And Easy Rider is the movie that inspired all of these old guys to hit the road in the first place. Easy Rider is the movie that made motorcycles cool in like the 70s and 80s, like just as far as like hit the road and go off on that. It started the whole trend of a lot of it too. Of just like the freedom of the open road. And so for Peter Fonda to kind of come in here and he's playing Jack's dad and tell him to like lay off is a nod to the biker movies, you know, like that came before them, which is actually like, oh, cool. You know, like that's the type of thing this type of film should be doing. Like you said, we had the bikers, the chopper guys earlier in the bar. It's like you should just fill the world up with like these guys if you're doing an homage to it anyways.
Also, Dudley kind of steps up and does his own little spotlight thing because he's in love.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, I'm going to defend the city. And it fails completely.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, but he does have a
cool.
very funny scene when he first fights the bikers and
Right.
gets captured, and the bikers are even like, we're gonna break his legs, and he's like, I don't need my legs, don't come after me. And then they're like, he's like, I'm a programmer, and they're like, we'll break his hands then. He's like, okay, you guys got to pay these guys.
Yeah,
now.
I need out.
Yeah.
And you know what's cool about this last scene, like the end of the movie with the boss, right, Blade? It's actually Ray Liotta's dad, and he goes, "All right, son." And then he's like, "Oh shit, okay." But it's really interesting because it's just this guy comes in, does a couple one-liners, and the whole plot that the movie's built is just poof, just done. Yep,
Well,
I'm done.
And then he gets to go, well, Wild Hogs, ride hard or go home. And it's just like, he gets to be like, you guys are badasses. It's been certified by another badass.
Yeah.
Go home. And then they...
Bonafide badass.
Well, and he says, leave the watches behind, which is it's a good line, you know?
It is, yeah, because, don't want to tell
Doesn't fit the
time.
look.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit the look,
Freedom, man.
Freedom. Free men don't tell the time.
I don't care if I'm hungry or sad. I'm just on the big road.
Toxic masculinity is making you keep a watch.
Yeah.
That is the point of this film, man.
Yeah, get out of the system, man.
Get out of your mind. But then the women show up, the wives, and like Bobby fixes his marriage in like a moment.
Right in front of everyone.
All of a sudden, like, Tim Allen's son is there, and he's like, "Wow, you're so cool, Dad."
It's so fucking bad.
It all just wraps up like nothing.
Yep.
And then like one of the sheriffs is like, "You fellas were a blessing to this town."
Straight up.
It's just like, we get it. We fucking got it. They saved this town.
And the twins is like, yeah, and Meathead really liked you too because he always talked in his fucked up ear. And then he finally hears him and goes, "What'd you say?"
Right. That is a good little. They tie up that
something that completely forgot happens, and I'm like, it's actually a pretty good part of the movie. The final ending scene.
Oh yeah, well, because they write off. Their whole goal was to go to the coast, so they're like, we're gonna keep riding. We're not going home. And yes, so good vibrations, right?
That necessarily wasn't the scene I was talking
about. Is that not what you're talking about?
But that scene is great.
Say what you're saying.
And it was cool to see.
That's the end.
It was cool to see a bit of our home. We are here close to SoCal.
Out in LA,
so it's cool to see we're close to the coast and just see those iconic spots.
Always love saying PCH.
Venice,
PCH, Knocked
Malibu.
Up ends with PCH as well. It's just classic LA, imagery.
Right, and then Dudley does his thing, his trope, and then they crash instead.
Yeah. That's right.
Then. A scene of, if you guys remember the show Extreme Home Makeover.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. That's the credits. Oh,
that's the credits.
That's what you're. Yeah,
okay.
That's why I was just trying to wrap the film before I got to that. Perfect. No, but you're right. We did wrap the film.
Yeah, which it's good.
It's perfect B-roll footage over the movies, over the credits too, because they don't show the rebuilt bar, but it's a home improvement or Real Home. What is it? Extreme Makeover. Which was a huge thing of 07. It's a perfect element of 07. It's what, VHS was playing for like 6 hours of their programming a day or something,
And I love this stuff. So iconic. It's just nostalgia overload.
Yeah.
Jake, we know that you've had a lot of time with, your bar being grown up and your gang and all this, and the Wild Hogs wanted to help you out. And then he's like, oh, it didn't have to name us.
Right.
And then they show the thing, like usual, it's 100% CGI. The building is a complete CGI mess.
Wait, they did show the building?
They showed the
one
building?
shot? I thought I missed it. And I must have. I just
they
was
showed
looking
it,
up
and
and
it's a CGI bar, and it is
just rough.
Really bad.
Yeah. I was giving them props for shooting around it and just showing the reactions of everyone, and then cutting to the reactions of like, the bar was like a home to me. So when I lost the bar, I was like, I lost a home. Like all that stuff was really funny. I thought.
I mean, even Ray Liotta's like,
yeah,
like you're crying, like
perfect
really.
wrap up for him.
And it's a great ending for a terrible film. For some, in my opinion, the film was bad, but still watchable. Mm-hmm. Not in a way that it was like really funny bad.
No,
but I just feel like if they tweaked, like if they really went full force into some items. But for the time, it's just so period correct. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it's unfortunately just poorly constructed at a lot of points, right? Like just relying on too many cliches for setups, and it's like, it's good. It's okay to rely on a cliche if it gets you to a good joke, but as we know, some of this is like the cliche setup to do a tasteless joke, and. I mean, dude, this is rough. This is like $2 DVD bargain bin, material for sure. With
a couple A-listers. John Travolta's an A-lister.
He is, sure. But he is not in a good moment of his career here at all. Yeah. This is like he had 2 moments of his career where he was really big when he started, and then he fell out of fashion, and he came back into fashion with Pulp Fiction, and then he went back out of fashion. By the time this is out, and I don't think he's come back into fashion again. He's got Gotti, was that huge fucking mess of a film. It's just it's a bit off the rails now.
And it's cool to reflect and look at these movies for people our age and people that haven't seen them. Go watch them.
It's my first time, man.
I hope this kind of inspired a little bit of reflection of the world at the time and the beauty of cinema, how it captures more than what you would see at the first time. It's
I think
fun.
so. And I will say, I just wanted to make one comment on this director, Walt Becker. He hasn't made many films, but his next film, Old Dogs, is 10 times crazier than this.
Really?
It takes all of this idea of cliche plot constructions, yada yada, and just goes fucking insane. It's got Robin Williams and John Travolta in it again. John Travolta's playing a very similar role. If you want another crazy movie, that would make a good double for sure.
Nice, and maybe we'll talk about it one day.
Maybe I think if I'm going with more seasons, we're going backwards rather than forwards, but you never know. We might come back up.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you having me.
Averick, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. Where can people find you on social media? Like Instagram, anything like that you want to plug?
Instagram, Av or Rick is my handle, but I don't post very often. I just love posting food pictures.
Cool.
But gonna start maybe getting a YouTube rocking myself. Maybe something like this is it's very inspiring to do. But if you guys enjoyed, let me know.
Nice.
Let Louis know. I mean,
please do.
Appreciate you guys visit.
I was gonna say I'll link up to your stuff in the show notes so you guys can check that out. You can follow CinemaSpan on Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me at Louis Hilligus. That has been the show. It's another double of 2007 down. Thank you, Averick.
Solid episode.
Fucking
solid episode.
Hell yeah.
And obviously a great movie. Well,
oh, dude, it was nothing. I mean, I would only put you on for a masterpiece, you know?
Nice.
What do you think? Wild Hogs ride hard, or do Wild Hogs go home?
I think they ride hard.
I think they ride.
All right. Awesome.
Oh, God.
Help.
Superbad for the first time?
Oh, no.
It's okay. You can take it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, baby. Hi. How are you? I tried calling you earlier. Oh, okay, I appreciate it. I'm on the podcast right now, at least. What? What'd you say? I made it. Yeah, it was sketchy, but I made it. But we're recording at the moment. Can I call you back in just a little bit, baby? Are you at home? Okay, can you please be safe? Okay, please. I love you very much, honey. Okay, I'll call you as soon as I can. Okay, bye-bye. Women. If you know what I'm saying.
Oh man. Ooh. That's a joke that would fit right in on Wild Hogs. That's all I'll say.
Yes.